One question I have for you, hello, on that. With the recent Hamas figures that got taken out, over the last 12 hours, even I think the fifth largest leader in the Hamas organization. Can you explain to us a little bit of the significance of some of the leaders that have just been taken out recently by the IAF
Yeah, I
strikes?
mean, at the end of the day, we have the head of the intelligence, which I would imagine was a very, very crucial part of this entire operation. The state of Israel, I'm sure, is going to be investigating for the next, I don't know how many decades, how this happened. There are so many questions, but now's not the time. But I would imagine that Hamas's intelligence is what led this operation. So the man who leads intelligence, we took out. That's huge, but that wasn't even the biggest one. We took out a brigade officer who led an entire brigade in Gaza. We just took out Ismail Hania's family. We took out his brother. We took out his extended family, all hiding out in Gaza. That is the head of Hamas, or one of the heads of Hamas. Listen, they're all in Qatar, these cowards, right now. They're talking a big game, telling their people, stay in Gaza, stay in Gaza. Meanwhile, they're in Qatar in their palaces. But let me tell you something. If
Yeah.
Israel has proven anything, it's that we have unlimited access through the Mossad, through all of our different, operations to reach our enemies wherever they are, and we will reach them in Qatar, and they will be eliminated like their family was just now in Gaza. There's no question. And the bottom
Yeah.
line, at the end of the day, and this is the most important thing, what we need right now in Israel is we need support. We need the world to step up, because in our history, especially 75 years ago, the world did not step up. Now it's time to correct that. The world needs to step up. The world needs to stop creating an equal sign between the IDF and Hamas. There's no equal sign. Moral relativism is one of the biggest plagues of Western society. These two things are not equatable. And it's extremely important. These are not semantics. These are not words. Words kill. One cannot equate the two. The bottom line is we need support right now in every possible way, whether it's diplomatic, political, military, financial. We need all the support we can get. We will win this. We will win this, and we will come out strong on the other end. I have zero doubt of that. Zero doubt of that.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, for now, we need the world to step up and stand by us and give us unlimited support, and not tell us, oh, there are too many innocent people that no one asked America how many innocent Afghans died when they attacked Afghanistan, and no one asked America or England how many innocent Germans died in World War II. Evil needs to be eradicated, and sadly, innocent people die in war. That's the way the world works.
Absolutely.
It's even worse too when you consider, right, that Hamas is putting those civilians in harm's way. It's not like the IAF is deliberately targeting these civilians, right? Hillel, it is Hamas that is putting them in harm's way.
I'm going to say something a little controversial about that. I'm going to go ahead and say I think the Jewish people in Jewish scripture we're described as a nation as a very compassionate nation, but unfortunately we often go too far with what we do, with what we're good at. We always go too far, and I believe, in my humble opinion, you'll excuse me for saying this if this is not politically correct, I think we've gone too far. I think at the end of the day, our pinpoint precision of missiles, so that we don't, God forbid, kill someone innocent, and that way we let them know that we're about to. What kind of army lets their enemy know they're about to attack? You think that the Hamas terrorists are not running away when we let the innocent civilians of Gaza know that we're coming? So, in my opinion, that is immoral. To let our enemies know that we're coming, that's immoral. And we're trying to be so moral that we're becoming immoral. In my opinion, we need to attack full force, no holds barred. We're not holding back. We need to do what we need to do. And whether the world supports us or not, we will not stop. Hopefully, the world will continue to support us. But whether it does or it does not, that's irrelevant. We need to do what's right. We need to do what's moral.
Now, let me go to Loai to go on.
Hillel, I want to tell you one thing. If you allow me.
Yeah.
If you allow me, Chet, please. As a Muslim, as a proud Arab and Muslim, the support that I have for Israel is since you're talking about scriptures and biblical, it's actually biblical. I'll be very honest with you. My knowledge of the Bible and my knowledge of history, and there's a very great predicament to so many Muslims who claim that they honor, revere, believe in the prophets of God who were Israelites, and they know nothing about their stories, and they know nothing about what they've been through. But I know their stories, and I know what they've been through, and I know how David the Israelite fought against Goliath from Gath the Philistine. I know how Samson, the seventh judge of Israel, avenged his eyes, and he went to Gaza and he said, I know all these stories, and this is why this knowledge is like a call out from my creator to stand with Israel. And by the way, I say this in Arabic, in English, and in so many languages. And this is the drive that should drive Muslims to believe that the Jewish people are not foreign conquerors or colonialists, and they are defending their land that God gave them, and they are how to say this, they are the descendants of the prophets that we believe in, and they don't want anything. They don't want to take over your land. They just want to live and prosper and thrive in the land that God promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I'll be very honest with you. This is my stance, and this is where I go biblical in defending Israel. And I have no shame in saying this in
Loe,
front
is
of
that how you say your
everyone,
name?
officials,
Loe.
non-officials, and everyone.
Is you say your name Loe?
Louis,
Is that how you pronounce it?
yes.
Why?
Loe.
Yes.
First of all,
Luai.
Loe,
It's Luai.
thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you just said. Thank you on behalf of the Jewish people. And I the big question remains, and again, please don't misunderstand what I'm about to say as God forbid an accusation or an attack on you. But where the hell are the millions of Muslims that are against what Hamas is doing? Why are they staying quiet? How could they stay quiet? It boggles my mind how there are millions, maybe hundreds of millions of Muslims out there who don't support this. Where are they?
I'll give you the honest answers. Unfortunately, many Muslims support Hamas.
Yeah, but there are millions and maybe hundreds of millions who don't, or tens of. It doesn't make a difference what the number is. There are many who do not. Those people are
I
not
know,
speaking
but
up.
I know, but I'll tell you, Hillel. I'll tell you also the honest answer. I am also shocked by seeing how many people believe in the pathological creed that Hamas has, especially if you read their charter about killing Jews. But I wouldn't say that the majority of Muslims stand against Hamas. I would say there are good Muslims who
Oh, I
stand
didn't say
against
majority.
Hamas, and there are brave
No,
Muslims.
not majority.
But I would say I don't want to lie to you. You want me to lie to you, or you want me to tell you the
No, but
truth?
I have to point out the irony of the Jew telling the Muslim that there are more Muslims who don't support, and the Muslim saying no, they do support. It's just kind of ironic. But I don't know about the majority. It doesn't matter.
I
Whatever there is, they should speak up.
I'm just representing myself as an educated Muslim, as an educated Arab Muslim. I say, of course, I stand against it and I speak up. I know it's not easy. And by the way, don't forget, Hila, it's not easy to speak
Oh, I
up
know.
because you would be intimidated by the pro Hamas supporters. So I don't want to blame them at the same time, but I say it's a big responsibility for influencers to lose all of their followers, but to win their authenticity,
Right.
to win themselves in standing with the truth.
Well,
And this is why I say you have to be brave in saying what you
right.
believe in.
But Loe, if I
Because you
may,
cannot say, hold on, Hilal, hold on, Hilal. You cannot say I stand against Hamas, or I'm sorry, you cannot say I support what Hamas is doing of killing Jews, and then you line up the next day in an American embassy or a European embassy asking for a visa to study, work, and live in Europe with their values while you support Hamas. And then when that fanatic does something, the Europe says, we don't know where they come from. Oh yeah, right. Give me a break. Come
I'm
on.
with
You know where they come from. This is why vetting should be implemented on everyone, including myself. I wouldn't mind, by the way.
I'm afraid that ship has sailed, as you all well know. Listen, here's one thing that I don't know if it's been mentioned already. It refers to what Hillel said earlier. Foreign nationals from more than 40 countries are being held hostage. So if the world is united against Hamas, then those 40 countries will prove it. We shall soon find out.
I gotta bounce in like a minute. I just want to say one thing, and this is really important. There is a distinction, and again, it's a really important distinction between Hamas and Palestinian people. There is a distinction. Having said that, and this is the kind of thing that's not popular to say, and it's not politically correct, but we have to understand the irony of this all, right? Because if the Palestinian people, quote unquote, the Palestinian people, the Palestinian nation deserves a state, then they're a nation. And if they're a nation, they deserve and they should be accountable for their actions. And if a people who you or whoever someone thinks deserves a state, if there are people in a nation that deserves a state, then there are people in a nation who elected Hamas. Period. That's it. There's no, but they didn't have a choice. No, poor Palestinians, Hamas would have killed them. Listen, are they a people or are they not a people? If they're a people and you think they deserve a state, then there are people that should be held accountable. You can't have it both ways. And that's the irony of it. The irony of it is the same people who are yelling, Palestinian state, two-state solution, when the Palestinians themselves have declared endless times they don't want a state, they want dead Jews. Those same people who are saying a Palestinian state are the very same people who are saying, they're a bunch of little punks shooting rockets into Israel. Come on, they shouldn't be held accountable. They didn't mean it when they said from the river to the sea. Don't take them seriously. Make up your mind. Are they a people or are they not a people? And that's the irony of it all. And it's a sick level of hypocrisy the world has never known. There are facts on the
Well,
ground. People are ignoring the facts.
listen,
The reason is,
Hillel,
one
right,
more sentence.
Hello,
the,
hello. You can go further. Hello, you can go further.
the
The
latest
Palestinian Authority
narrative.
repeatedly has canceled elections because Hamas would win. Hamas polls way above them in the West Bank. Hamas is popular. This is their elected government.
Let's not kid ourselves here, Hillel. The latest narrative is not two-state solutions. The latest narrative, and I've heard it from some of the worst accounts on here, Syrian Girl, Khaleesi, etc., we want, get this, a one-state solution that will be a secular state. I mean, the irony is not lost on moi.
Right. All right, guys. I gotta bounce. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys.
Thank you.
Definitely come say
Thank you
hello.
very
Come
much for
say hello
stopping
on
by.
X.
And
I'd
Stay
love to connect with
safe,
every
stay
single one of you.
safe.
yes, thank you very much, Lowell. Stay
Yeah, guys.
safe. And now let's go to Daniel.
All right. Bye bye.
Yeah. So I agree with what Hillel said, quite unequivocally,
Hmm.
support. I'll add one more thing to his silver lining. It's not just the unity in Israel. I would stress the message that we're, for the first time, not alone. And don't be distracted by Khaleesi and Syria Girl. Like, they'll never come around. Like, we know what their job is, but the amount of people that woke up, non-Jews, I mean, in my thing, like big influence accounts in Canada, America, who saw evil and then immediately chose to confront it. There are a lot of people in like the child rights movement who were marching with these Muslims on the gender stuff. A lot of them, when those same Muslims came and supported the genocide, turned on them quite quickly, and a lot of the leaders, like, I guess, broke ranks and said, these are not the allies I want, and have been quite loud. They're not Jewish, they're just good moral people. And don't just look at not only was it the mask came off too quickly for Hamas, it was too brutal, it was too much. The glee in the supporters for dead Jews was overwhelming. But it's not the global jihad, or is not just on the Jews. In North America, during Nivarati, there were pro-Hamas members who tried to shut down Hindu temples because they perceived the Indian response to this genocide to be way too in support of Israel. And as someone who's been on a lot of Indian television over the last month, I can tell you Indian TV is more pro-Israel and more Zionist than Israeli TV. Like, it's 1.5 billion people awakening and an emerging geopolitical power. I mean, in 5 to 10 years. I mean, look at India 5 to 10 years ago. Look at it now, the amount of power they have. Look at it another 5 to 10 years. Like, that's an ally. We've seen so many Iranians, real Iranians in here, come in and be in support. So my silver lining here, and as someone who, was talking about this as the doomsday scenario, one of the I told you so Jews on, what do you think is going to happen if you keep enabling what's going to happen? But we are not alone. There are many, many, many people who saw evil, the face of evil, and chose to confront it. And I don't think we should ever lose sight of that. And, I welcome my friend here from the UAE, Ravi, who's an American Hindu, but and so many others like that immediately came and saw moral clarity. And I think this is the time to sort of acknowledge that, embrace that, and move forward together. Because yes, the jihad is not against the Jews. Hamas is quite clear. After the Jews, they're moving on to the Christians, and sometimes they don't mention Hindus because they don't think of them as people. It's just implied that they should be killed. But the Hindus aren't stupid. They know their history. They know what jihad means. They know what rockets flying in from Pakistani
Yep.
backed jihadi groups are. And it's time that we, make common cause and
Wake up.
march together. And
Wake up.
and don't be disheartened. This listen, I've cried. We've seen the horrors, but
Yeah.
there is a giant army of the coalition of the willing, and it's time we embrace them and understand we're no longer alone. This is not, the evil is the same as 1930s and 1940s. But just because there are some Western bureaucrats with their heads up their ass doesn't mean the rest of the world does. And it's time we stand with them too.
Absolutely. I call them the all too silent majority. Anyway, where's our host? Hello, chat. Where are you?
I'm always here. Let me go to Golan now, since you've had your hand raised for a bit, and then we'll go to Ravi after that, and then Avi.
Hi, thanks for letting me speak again. And listen, guys, the host and the co-host, this is one flipping amazing space. The amount of information and knowledge and opinions from so many different corners of the world are overwhelming, and it's impressive and amazing to participate in. So thank you very much for facilitating it. It's not an easy task to achieve. I want to say something to Loai, but before I do, Loai, could you please tell me what's the meaning of your name?
So Lu'ay, it's an Arabic name that means the one who struggles in his life, just like I do now. I'm struggling in my life.
So
Makes me think a lot of Chet. Yes.
Do we not? I mean, I'll point out that
It's like in Hebrew, it's like hazak. You know, it's like a strong guy a strong man
excellent.
who suffers.
I want to tell you something. Although your words are so articulately and strong, I want to tell you that I met many people from your country, doing business with them, visiting in your country, your country members visiting here in Israel with me, and I was exposed to something which is a product of the Abraham Accords, which I never seen before. And what I'm talking about is not so much the relationship that we have developed between the nation, but the wealth of information and perspective of talking to an Arab, and in a way that was not possible before that. I appreciate very much what you say. I want to take this conversation, IJ. We are talking about so many things here, but you asked, I think, an hour ago, so something about. So what's the purpose of the Biden visit? And I think you said, will they stop Israel? Will they not? And then we went into this impossible, beautiful, amazing twists in this dialogue. But I want to go back there, and I wanted to update that. Firstly, it seems like Rishi Sunak, the British Premier, is arriving to the Middle East. If not tomorrow, on Thursday. This is on top of what I've heard about President Macron of France planning to visit as well. And I think this visits, not an Israeli, I'm speaking now, or the Israeli cause, but I think they speak very loud about the gravity of reality that is unfolding. It is involving so many nations. It is involving so many interests. But I want to think that other than everything we talk about, the military objectives and the eradication of Hamas, and by the way, Herzl Levy, which is the IDF chief of staff, he was visiting the generals in the north, and he told them that to be ready for war with Hezbollah, and if Hezbollah, that's his words, I'm quoting, if Hezbollah will make the mistake, they will be annihilated. That's a very strong words from the Israeli chief of staff, I can assure you. So I think, going back to what your question, IJ, is that we are not talking just about a local incident between Gazans and Israelis. This is a much larger game there are many, many superpowers that have got skin in the game, so to speak. I think that the Abraham Accords are key in the solution, because I do not want, as an Israeli, I want to ease the suffering of the Gazan residents as much as possible, without jeopardizing the objectives of the goals of the war that we are fighting, which is eradicate the Hamas ideology from the land of Israel once and for all. But I wish for the Gazan residents, those which are not involved, they need to have a solution. I believe the UAE, I believe the Saudi are going to take a great role and part in this to ensure it. The bridges that we build between the nations is so important to facilitate a solution which will enable us to eradicate Hamas.
Couldn't agree more. Wonderfully put. I mean, we have some incredibly articulate speakers on this space. They bloody well show me up. It's embarrassing. Anyway, over to you, Chet. Bring up some more. And
Yes,
just,
let's go
thank you for
to
that.
yes, let's go to Avi first, and then we'll go back to Ravi.
Good evening. How's it going, guys?
It is going well
Well,
on
I
this
guys,
side over
you
here in
guys,
America, but
yeah, you
how's
guys,
it
morning,
going in Israel?
afternoon. We're chilling. We just had a whole load of rockets going over our heads towards the center of Israel. So we're just watching like some kind of fireworks show. We're actually we're managing to find the funny side of what's going on.
I was going to say, is that kind of what it's sort of become for a lot of Israelis? I've noticed that the more I'm speaking to Israelis over the past few days, more and more, at least males, seem to be more prone to be like out on their balcony looking at the show kind of happening. Not to their
Yeah.
wife's agreement necessarily, but
I think actually the country is slowly but surely getting back to realization that we just have to get on with our lives. Like schools are starting to go back, offices are starting to reopen, stores are restaurants are reopening now. We're just the reality is we have to thank God to non-stop for the situation we're in. But in reality, most of the country is relatively safe. We have the Iron Dome, which pretty much takes down 90-something% of any missiles, and there's not that many. We have a few a day. Where I live in Beit Shemesh right now, we've had like only 2 or 3 the last week, so it's not been, it's actually relatively calmed down. The horrors, everything's come out, and people are starting to become a bit more numb to it, and as a bit more unemotional than they were in the last week, and there's no real danger to the troops because they haven't really gone in. So we're sort of in this little lull right now where we're just like bombing, and every so often they send some rockets, and everyone's sort of trying to get back to life. I imagine things will change drastically if and when the troops go in. That's what I think the next big step will make a difference to Israeli lives. I want to go and tackle, I think, what Hillfold said before and what Daniel was mentioning before. And I don't want to be a party pooper, but I want to sort of disagree. First of all, because I'm Jewish, so we have to argue. But also, I actually really disagree. I agree vehemently that right now, in the world, the Israeli cause, let's call it, has got massive support. I mean, you see people that were in the past criticizing many things that Israel did and does, and have suddenly come to their support. I mean, Joe Biden is at the forefront. You have Rishi Sunak, you have Macron, you have the German, you have Italian. There's so many different heads of states and presidents that have said, we're standing in solidarity with Israel. And then you have this ridiculous situation that everyone's coming this week. I don't fully understand that. I actually think that's detrimental to Israel. I think it's actually negative, not positive, that they're all coming, simply because I think they're going to be putting on pressure onto Bibi and other people to do things that they want them to do. And then suddenly, well, we came in and we got involved, and now you have to listen to us. I mean, if Joe Biden comes and says you can't do a ground invasion, so then the whole visit sort of becomes stupid. And I think actually he's going to do that. But put that aside. I think we have to. The attitude has to be. I mean, obviously, I'm a religious Jew. So I'm very much a believer in God and everything else. But I think as Israelis, our attitude has to be: we know what's right. We know that we're doing what's right, and we don't give a crap what the rest of the world says. If they hate us, they love us, and I'll tell you why. Because I can tell you this very, very clearly: in about 2-3 weeks, we're going to have killed probably tens of thousands of innocent Palestinians. We can justify it or we can't. I mean, that's the reality. I imagine there's probably around 10,000 dead already under the buildings, the amount of buildings you've put down. And then people are going to start turning and they're going to say it's disproportionate. And there's going to be, I believe, a massive, massive hatred and pressure on Israel to stop what they're doing and not get to the ultimate desire, whether it's get rid of Hamas, whether it's take over Gaza, whatever the the end game is. I don't really know. I'm a bit doubtful to understanding what the end game is going to be. And we're going to have a barrage of international pressure from everywhere, from news agents, from journalists, online, from every president of state, from Macron and out. The more we embrace them today and we get excited that they're with us, the harder it's going to be to turn around to them and say, no, we have to complete our mission. And then they're going to say, well, then there's going to be a UN resolution and the Americans are going to have to veto it, but they're going to veto it, but on condition. And, so I don't, it's nice. I actually don't really care, but I can understand why people find it's nice that suddenly we're proven right. I think it's a confidence issue. I've always known we're right. I don't care what people say. I know it does create some kind of pressure worldwide and it makes it more difficult to maneuver and work. But guys, let's not embrace it. Joe Biden will turn against us tomorrow if he wants to. Rishi Sunak will turn against us tomorrow, and we're going to have to deal with it. And it's going to become difficult. And I think we should acknowledge it, and we should be appreciative of it. But let's not get so excited because
Okay.
right now we haven't really done much. Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
So some people, no, let me say this. Some people were in the space earlier, and I agree with you, unfortunately. I don't mean I agree with you. It's unfortunate I agree with you because I actually think Biden is there to try and deter Netanyahu, to try and tie his hand. But and so I'm not going to make a big long spiel about why I disagree with other people. I hope they're right and you and I are wrong. The one thing I will say is I don't think Rishi Sunak will change simply because he's of Indian extraction, and other people on this forum have already stated the great support for Israel from people from India. So that's the only thing I might disagree with you. I hope you and I are wrong, sir. My God, I hope you and I are wrong. We'll very soon find out.
All right.
Yeah,
Another.
but
Yeah,
I,
unfortunately, unfortunately, Biden, a lot of his authority on this one comes from the aircraft carrier that he says will be an offer of kinetic support should Hezbollah attack. Hezbollah is probably going to view that as a bluff. So the U.S. will have a decision to make if we're actually going to start firing in a huge way. If that doesn't happen, clearly as a U.S. citizen and a Jew, I support that kind of military action. But if that doesn't come, on the other hand, Israel may well correctly view this for what it is. Sorry, Bubs, like, if you're not going to defend us, we got to do it ourselves. So hopefully that's the case. The other side I would like to point out is on the point of proportionality, our good friend Moshe Lion for Zion has made an excellent meme on this issue. It's sad as F. It is up in this. It's up in the nest. Get that message out there. Copy, paste it, use it as your own. I don't care. The point is not who owns it. The point is that we make the point of what is proportional.
There was I did do a thread on it. I sent it to Thread Reader app. I don't know if anyone saw it, but hundreds of genuine international law scholars came out in absolute support of Israel. You might want to check it out. As I say, I did a thread on it, and it's a very important thread because when anyone talks about international law, please just send them that.
I just want to jump back in and just round off what I said. So basically, I'm not taking the support of, like I would say, foreign heads of states and politicians, etc., because they'll turn against, with their view on how they view things differently. I think I just do want to end off by saying,
I just have some breaking news that's crossing my wires right now from 12 News saying that Iranian TV is running TV ads to enlist volunteers from Iran to join the fight. Hezbollah is doxing U.S. intel officials in Lebanon, and IRGC is working to mobilize militias in Iraq. And all attempts are to spark, it looks like, a wider war here.
Wow, yeah. Look, I think that's everyone's worry. I actually think that's one of the reasons why Biden's come and people are coming is because of nothing to do that much with Gaza and Hamas, and it's more to do with Hezbollah. I mean, they're a different proposition in a fight. I mean, Hezbollah, you're talking about a real army, a real strong army. And then obviously it's with proxies of Iran, etc. But I don't want to I'll leave for someone else to give their commentary. But I just want to end off by saying that I've always said this, and I do this in my life, and I tell this to my kids and to my friends and to people I consult with in business and personally. If you believe you're doing the right thing, you don't need anyone else's support. And I from the people that I know in the army and the Israeli, I've many friends, and the way I see Israel working on our side, I think we're incredibly ethical. But on the other hand, I I I wish someone would be a grown up on both sides, I must say, and find some kind of real long-term solution that really would I actually think the people that really need help in this whole picture. I know many Jews are Israelis, and I'm one of those, are hurting, and I don't believe in revenge. I don't believe there's such a thing as revenge. I don't believe in it at all. I believe in God gets his revenge and he runs the world, not me. But I do believe in gaining, whether it's quiet, whether it's gaining peace. And I think that's the real big image over here. And I don't think anyone cares enough, especially on the Arab side more than our side. But to be able to say, let's get this situation and actually knock it out and say, how can we actually make some kind of situation that both
Yeah.
Israelis
And
and the
now let
Gazans will
me
be in.
and now let me move
Go.
to Tamar Schwarzbard. It's great to see you here today. I just want to hear your feedback on some of the stuff that you're hearing here today, and what's been going on in Israel over the past 24 hours, as well as some of the diplomatic arrivals, like the United States president, etc.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for hosting me and having me. I've kind of just been listening to all of your wonderful insights from the sidelines. From our perspective, I have to say the last week and a half has been the most horrific nightmare that any of us have ever experienced. As someone who works in the digital space, I have to say the amount of photos I've seen and stories I've heard about, I think are going to scar every single one of us for a very, very long time. Right now, we're just trying to do everything we can to get the Israeli narrative out, to make sure that the stories of the hostages and the families are heard, because that is obviously our number one priority, to let them know that we're here for them, that we're speaking for them, and that we're making sure the victims' memories will be a blessing and that we can bring the hostages home as soon as possible. In terms of support that we've gotten from a lot of the world, we're extremely grateful to every single, leader, governmental official, citizen, civilian who has come out in support of Israel. I think this is the first time we're seeing a lot of people express their support for Israel, because the images that have come out of this conflict have been so horrific. If you are able to turn a blind eye, then you just have no moral bone in your body. So we've been seeing a lot of individuals come out to speak out in support of Israel. We're very grateful that President Biden will be landing in Israel tomorrow, and a lot of other world leaders will be coming here to show their support. I don't think it's an obvious thing. We're currently in the middle of a war zone, in the middle of a conflict. It's not the safest space to be right now. And the fact that these world leaders are willing to just kind of put everything aside and risk their lives to come and stand with the Israeli people and the Jewish people means a lot. So that's just a bit of what I've seen or experienced from my perspective. Happy to answer, any questions from any of you guys.
Well,
Yeah,
I've got something I have to
sure.
ask. I've just seen a report that said 500 Palestinians in Gaza killed on a strike in a Baptist church in Gaza. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but I'd be interested to hear how you feel we're going to deal with that narrative, because
Okay, so
obviously it's awful for
I'm not
everyone.
at liberty to comment on any recent news updates for obvious reasons. I
Okay.
think we're still
Okay.
trying to understand what exactly is going on the ground. All I can say this, and this is not just a slogan that we use. Israel is 100% committed to saving as many civilian lives as we can. I know there are disagreements about that, in this group, but I stand by the IDF and I stand by the Israeli government's efforts to make sure that innocent men, women, and children are protected on both sides. And I have to say, any civilian casualties that take place in the Gaza Strip are at the hands of Hamas, who has been using the Gazan people as hostages and human shields for a very, very long time. And they should be and will be held responsible for every single civilian casualty.
Yes, it's absolutely shameful, Tamar, the level of international war crimes we've seen from Hamas, and it's dual faceted, right? That not only do they come and kill innocent civilians without any care, in a completely psychopathic, evil fashion. On the other side, they also psychopathically put children and women and innocents in front or around or near wherever they're doing their launches or their attacks or their military operations into Israel. So I think it is very critical that that you pointed that out as well, Tamar. That it is not just a matter of these civilians died in Gaza and that therefore it's the IDF's fault. No, it's Hamas is putting these civilians in harm's way, and the IDF has been quite clear on its roof knocking. If you'd like to speak on that as well,
For
Tamar.
sure. I also just want to make one comment about Hamas's atrocities. I think something that's really stood out to me during this cycle of violence is the amount of so-called human rights organizations who have just been silent as to everything that has happened in Israel in the past 2 weeks, who have also been silent as to the numerous atrocities Hamas is committing against Gazan civilians. And I think a lot of masks have come down in the past week. I have to say, as someone who's a feminist, I'm shocked that I have not seen every single women's rights group come out in support of Israeli women and come out and say there is no excuse for beheading little girls, for raping women, for defecating on their bodies, for murdering moms and grandmothers and Holocaust survivors in their homes. And I have to say, if there's one thing that I realized, from this conflict is there's a phrase in Hebrew, im en ani li mili, if I'm not for myself, who will be for me? And I think that's something that a lot of Israelis and Jews are feeling. And I have to say, I am in complete embarrassment and shock from the so-called human rights community who is just turning a blind eye to atrocities being committed against men, women, children, toddlers. I mean, I say this all the time. I grew up in a family with 4 Holocaust survivors as a kid. I really, really never understood how people could deny the Holocaust. And when I see people across the internet debating as to whether 40 babies were beheaded or burned alive or just butchered, I say to myself, you know what? I really can understand now how the Holocaust happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's unfathomable. It's unfathomable to watch. I'm sure a lot of people up here have questions for you. I'll go to Daniel first here.
I was going to respond to what Avi said, but I'm happy to wait because we have a politician here to.
Yes. Anyone with questions for Tamar, please go ahead and give them out right now because I'm sure there's plenty afoot. Grass, I'll go to you. Grass, are you there? We might have lost Grass.
No,
Here
I'm
on,
here.
on
I'm
the
here. I'm
connect.
sorry. I was just. Hi, guys. Wow. Thanks for letting me in again. This is my second time on this space, and I really want to appreciate what you guys are doing 24/7. Chet, IJ.
Grass, I'm going to interrupt you there.
Sorry, yes.
We have someone who has much more important information on this site right now than most other people. So, can anyone who comes up only question that our dear politician friend here? It is not about other people's opinions right now.
Nah,
Any questions?
I don't have any.
We'll go to Avi because I can see he has a question. Avi, are you there?
No, I don't know. My hand's down. Sorry.
Oh, your hand was raised.
I know it's like my. I think who was speaking about? Who's Tamar? Just my entire Twitter is freezing.
Okay. That'll be happening as well. We've been dealing with a lot of information warfare on that side too here on Twitter, Tamar. That's something we've been having to deal with quite significantly, not just in this space, but I think pretty much almost in every pro-Israeli space on X. Unfortunately, have you seen that across multiple different areas? I know that you're kind of in the more the digital area. Obviously, this seems to be more than just a war between Israel and Gaza. This appears to be a digital front on all fronts across the world.
Absolutely. I'll comment on that in a minute, but just as a form of clarification, I am definitely not a politician. I am a civil servant for the state of Israel. I work for the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so I just want to make that really, really clear. In terms of the battleground that's taking place online, I think for the first time we're seeing the tide shift a bit towards Israel, which I think is really comforting, especially during these crazy, horrific times. And I have to say that even just in terms of our activity at the Foreign Ministry, in the past 2 weeks, our materials have been seen by more than 900 million people, which is pretty exceptional. Very, very, very soon, we are going to be reaching probably 1 billion impressions. So we're definitely working around the clock to make sure we get our message out. And I also have to say the amount of misinformation that has been circulating around the internet is extremely, extremely horrifying. We discussed for a long time whether or not we wanted to share really horrific images that we received. And I didn't know how I felt about it because I was extremely triggered myself, even just seeing those images. And we ultimately decided, because of the amount of denial on the internet as to what is going on, that we would share those photos, as difficult as they were. And I have to tell you, even with photos that we've shared from the IDF, from the families, from forensic, specialists, the amount of people kind of targeting the community notes and saying, no, that's not, the body of a burned baby. That's an AI generated image, is absolutely horrific. So I encourage all of you guys to kind of try to follow the misinformation, report it, comment against it. But I also have to say, I've never been more disappointed in humanity. Put the images out there, as difficult as they are for Israelis to see. You have to understand, this is one big traumatic event for the entire state of Israel. Every single individual in the state of Israel right now knows someone who was murdered, kidnapped, injured, etc. And for individuals online to deny what's going on, even with a significant amount of proof and visuals that we have, I'm just really disappointed in humanity.
Ravi?
Yeah, Tamara, first of all, it's so critical because what you said, I was in the IDF space yesterday, and it was the same question, what can we do? I know that many Indians right now totally support Israel, and many, I've said, I try to go bounce into Indian spaces to really make sure we have enough digital support to make sure that we are tweeting, retweeting, quote tweeting what's coming out from your handle, from MFA and others. And so just on a very pointed question, there are some individuals who are constantly attacking pro-Israel spaces across the world. And then I must say that one point that I also saw some strange folks on the IDF space, which were given platform, which have been doing a lot of propaganda against Israel and pro Israeli spaces. So it'll be good to have a very clear directive on what can we do to really amplify as much as we can across the world. And second question is about the media like BBC and many others who continue to call this as a militant activity, not a terrorist activity. So what are your thoughts on that?
So I'm going to answer both of those questions. I think they're great questions. In terms of your first question about individuals from the other side who are trying to infiltrate groups and spread propaganda, look, I'm very much a proponent of free speech. I think everyone is kind of entitled to say what they want to say, but we have to draw the line when it comes to people calling for violence and people calling to eradicate the only Jewish state. And that's kind of when we have to mobilize and make sure that those voices are not allowed to be heard. I can just tell you, I got a DM yesterday from this young individual who wrote something like, you're lying about babies being murdered. You're a Nazi. You're responsible for ethnic cleansing. And you know what I said to myself? I can ignore him. I chose not to. I sent him one of the videos that we had from forensic specialists who kind of, did the autopsy for a little child who was burned. And I sent him the video and I said, I'm happy to share more information with you if you're interested in being educated. And he said, no, I'm not interested in being educated. And I think that was kind of the answer that just made me realize the kind of individuals we're dealing with. A lot of these people are not interested in being educated. They don't care about the proof or the truth. And we shouldn't really be giving them a platform. But I also wouldn't waste too much time giving them attention and trying to take their voices down. So that's my perspective in terms of the first question that you asked. The second question regarding certain news sites. Look, the state of Israel has always had a problem with very specific journalists and news outlets around the world who are basically just supporting terror and who are refusing to acknowledge the real human rights abuses that are being conducted against Israelis. And I have to say, the one positive thing to come out of the past 2 weeks is that every single mask is coming down. If you, as a journalist, cannot call someone who beheads children, burns people alive in their homes while they are tied together terrorists, you have no integrity as a journalist, and your journalism means nothing, and they should revoke your license. So that's what I have to say in terms of certain news organizations like the BBC who refuse to use the word terrorist. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful that the one good thing to come out of this conflict in the past 2 weeks is that we're seeing individuals across the political spectrum, across the governmental spectrum, across the journalism spectrum for who they are.
Yep. Amen.
It's definitely shown a lot of true colors, and it's taught me a lot. That's for sure. Even over here in America, Sina, let's go to you.
Thank you so much, Tamar. Thank you very much for all that you do, and the awareness that you guys create. We really appreciate it. There's a famous thing that says, "Don't let facts get in the way of your opinion," and that's what we're doing with. I have. Can you give us some tips as to what not to do in terms of what we're amplifying? Because I think you would be the expert to let us know
Definitely.
some of the things that we should not to do. The other thing is, do you also have a platform for the Latina and the Asian
Yes.
communities in
Yes.
those two spaces? So I appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sina. I can see from your profile that I think you're originally Iranian. Is that correct?
Persian Jew, yes, with strong ties to Israel. Yes,
Are
yes,
you following all of our accounts in Farsi?
everything. Of
Ah,
course.
amazing. Amazing, amazing. So, first of all, in terms of the points that I think can be helpful to all of you guys, the first point that I would say is verify your information. Be really, really careful with what you put out because there's a lot of fake news out there, and we don't want to be like the other side and spread misinformation. So, the first thing that I would say is to share any content that you would like from the official State of Israel channels. I'm giving you guys completely free reign to download whatever you want and to share it with as many people as possible because our goal is to make sure that people know. In terms of the points that we have and we're sharing with people, the most basic point that I think works the best is the equivalence between Hamas and ISIS. It's not just a slogan. Hamas and ISIS are pretty much the same organization with the same ideology. You can see that from the photos and the videos that have come out in the past week. And in the same way that ISIS is a threat, to humanity and liberalism, and Europe and the United States, etc., Hamas is the exact same threat. And we need to be consistently using the phrase Hamas equals ISIS. So that I would say is like the biggest slogan that we can use. In addition to that, it's really important that we share the stories of everyday Israelis. 1,400 Israelis have been murdered. We're talking about children, we're talking about parents, Holocaust survivors, toddlers. There are still, close to 200 people who are being held hostage in the Gaza Strip, including foreign nationals from more than 40 countries. So we want to make sure that their stories are heard, and we want to make sure that we are pushing the stories of the hostages as much as possible so that we are able to put pressure on countries around the world and humanitarian organizations to demand their release. So I would say that's the second point. And the third point that I would kind of bring to the front is Hamas and the IDF in Israel are not on the same playing field. Okay. Hamas is a radical terrorist organization that wants to hurt innocent civilians. Israel is a legitimate government that is trying to protect itself against bloodthirsty animals. And we have to be really, really, really careful when people try, to talk about comparisons. And in addition to that, I have to say, this isn't just a slogan. This is not just, nice words that we're trying to say. Israel goes to the greatest lengths to protect innocent civilians on the Gazan side, sometimes even resulting in the death of innocent Israelis. So we want to be really, really clear that our fight is not against the people of Gaza. In fact, we stand with them because they are the ones who are being held hostage by Hamas. We believe that their lives will be better without Hamas. We believe that our lives will be better without Hamas, and we are going to do everything that we can to eradicate them. So that's in terms of the first question. In terms of the second question regarding resources that we have, I want to remind everyone who's in this space that our digital team is active in 6 languages. Okay, we are active in English, in Hebrew, in Arabic, Persian, Spanish, and in Russian. We have more than 10 million followers around the world. You can find us on every single platform. We have close to 1 billion impressions a year. So we definitely have a really big technological digital ecosystem that you guys can all access, and also follow the Israeli missions around the world. We have over 100, missions around the world who all have digital channels in more than 50 languages. We're talking about 800 accounts. So please feel free to follow all of our accounts and to take any information that you would like to use.
Wonderful. I
And
can't
I
believe
do
you
Can I
haven't
just
got a
add?
Gaelic account.
hold on
Can
one
I
One
second.
just
at a
add
time.
Just,
something?
One at a time.
Hold on 1 second. I do have some breaking news across the wires, saying that reports are currently suggesting that the mass casualty event at that hospital in Gaza City was the result of a misfired rocket launch by Hamas. No
Wow.
IDF air activity was reported at the time, and that does match. I
Hmm.
hadn't heard of
I,
any IF activity in that area, and the timing coincided with that salvo of rockets launched at Israel. So,
and
um,
it's
uh,
and it
it,
still didn't stop. It still didn't, Tamar. It still didn't stop the BBC immediately putting it on the news.
Well, that tells you everything that you need to know.
Yeah,
It does, and now
I can't.
let's
I can't
let
believe
me
you've not
quickly
got. Sorry, go on.
go to Hans IJ just because I think a lot of people have some questions
Yep.
here now
Yep.
tomorrow. Daniel, let me go to you, and then we'll go to Abby.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for being here. So one of the things I'll ask a hard question here at the Israelis. For years, a lot of us have been involved in sort of fighting anti-Semitic propaganda, anti-Israel propaganda here in the West in our countries, with zero support from the Israelis. The general attitude of the Israelis towards diaspora Jews is, "You're not wrong. We're a bunch of pussies, and you'll take our money, but you don't really want to get involved here because you don't want to be called this or that or anything." Do you think there is finally going to be a shift inside the Israeli government to realize that you cannot ignore the rest of the world? That the laxed attitude that you've had towards the growing rise of anti Semitism globally has allowed to be a scenario where the once allies that were so strong in the West are now wavering because they've been pushed so far by anti Semitic, anti Israel propaganda, specifically from Muslim Brotherhood and Muslim Brotherhood affiliated groups here in the West. Do you think that there's now been a shift? And it doesn't have to be today. I understand there are bigger fish to fry right now. There's a war. But do you think there's now finally an understanding that Israel cannot remain isolated from the world and just sort of leave us here, who are we're underfunded, outnumbered, and we've been fighting this pretty long with zero support from the Israeli state. So, do you think that that mentality has started to shift, or are we still, on our own to take on the enemies of the Jewish people because it's just too much of a complicated risk. Someone might say something mean, and there might be a tweet somewhere. Do you think this mentality is going to start to shift?
So, Daniel, I'm going to actually respectfully disagree with you, both as someone who grew up in the diaspora and moved to Israel, and also someone who works for the Israeli Foreign Ministry and who is part of a team that invests a lot of resources in connecting with, our Jewish brothers and sisters around the world. Look, I think there are some officials, maybe within Israeli society, maybe within the Israeli government, who haven't always taken diaspora Jewry as serious as they should. And I disagree with that. And I think that's extremely problematic. But I have to say, I've worked in the Israeli Foreign Ministry for 7 years. We put uh, extremely substantial amount of resources in terms of strengthening, training, speaking with the diaspora community, hearing, their opinions and how we can be helpful to them and how we can assist them. And I also just have to say, we need diaspora Jewry, and diaspora Jewry needs a state of Israel. I think we coexist. I think without one, the other can't exist. And I also have to say, I would speak out to some of my Jewish brothers and sisters in the diaspora who have also been somewhat problematic to the fight that we're fighting here, in the state of Israel. I think when you have a very minor group of Jews in the United States, and I'm speaking about a very, very, very small group of Jews in the United States who constantly speak out against the Israeli government and demonize the Israeli government and turn us into something that we're not, and they become, the tokenized Jews who are against the state of Israel. I also think that's something that we definitely need to be worried about and need to kind of deal with. I saw yesterday, if not now, an organization that I think in the work that they're doing is going to lead, to the injuring and death of innocent Israeli civilians. I saw yesterday they decided to do some kind of a big protest in front of the White House, protesting, against the actions that are taking place now in Gaza. From my perspective, that has just as much damage, okay, as some individuals in the Gaza Strip are conducting against Israel. So I think it's a complicated question. I understand where you're coming from. I do think there's some tshuva, as we say in Hebrew, that we have to do in terms of the work that we do to reconnect and reunite with our Jewish brothers and sisters in the diaspora. But I don't think it's as bad as you think.
Thank you for that, Tamara. Let's now go to Avi.
Hey, how's
Avi?
it going? Can you hear me?
Yes, again.
No, well, actually, the reason why I put my hand was because I saw. I mean, you mentioned it that people are talking about it's a misfire from Hamas on the other side. So that was the main reason I wanted to put up.
Okay, let me go
That we
to Moshe then.
Ironically, I was going to bring it up too, but I do actually have a question that came from the last conversation, which is I do think is correct. I think a lot of people talk about Jews, especially in the U.S., being kind of apathetic. But I think the problem with that is it's usually a very small minority, but they're also the ones that much like anything overly political, it's a very small minority of people who have the time to invest in that. Most people are worried about taking care of their family. So how do you engage the people that are pro-Israel but don't typically have the time to do the advocacy work that they would want to? Is there a way to engage them?
So, first of all, we do our best to engage any Jew around the world who would like to be connected with the state of Israel. We feel that they're our brothers and sisters. I'm not just saying that as a slogan, I really mean it. As I said before, I grew up in the diaspora. I moved to Israel 10 years ago. So, most of my life, I've spent as a pro Israel Jew in New York City. We do our best to connect with diaspora communities. So, I can give you an example. We have multiple WhatsApp groups with individuals, from the United States and from Latin America and from Europe who are interested in receiving information about Israel and sharing it with their communities. And we do our best to make sure that we pass them that information, even so that they can do something as simple as just retweet what we're putting out there. In addition to that, we have, very frequent dialogues online, whether it's via Zoom conversations or whether it's via in-person meetings through our embassies around the world in areas that have big Jewish communities. And we try to have, dialogue with them so that we can update them on what's going on in the ground in Israel and also make sure that they know that we're there for them and that their security and safety is paramount to us. Because a lot of people will say, anti Semitism and anti Zionism is not the same thing. It is absolutely the same thing. You can see that especially from the attacks that are taking place towards Jewish communities who haven't even, expressed support for Israel. So we do our best to make sure that there is a continuous dialogue with our Jewish brothers and sisters around the world. And I guess for people who want to support Israel, but don't necessarily have the time to dedicate to the cause, the biggest favor and the biggest, piece of kindness that they can do for us is to just share our content, share our stories, make sure that their friends, family members, colleagues know what's going on in Israel and know why we're fighting this war.
Wonderful. Can I interject for 1 second?
Go
There's
right
a dear
ahead.
friend. There's a dear friend, E Blue, a wonderful account, one of the best on Twitter. If Blue's there, would you like to say something?
Guys, thanks, IJ. I'm really new to this side of Twitter. I'm not 100% sure how I communicate. I've just been listening to a few things. Just to give you a general background, things here, as you all know, are pretty complicated at the moment. Specifically, I heard some comments earlier about the supposed attack on the hospital. May I ask you please to hold your fire on this? It is not clear. From my sources, it seems that something has happened there. There's no two ways about it. The army is looking into it. And at the moment, we have no exact news as to what happened there. It may have been Hamas rocket that was fired. It may have been Israeli attack. Whatever, hold your fire until things become clear. As soon as I hear anything from my sources, I'll let you guys know. There
Thank
was
you so much,
also
Blue. Keep going. No, as I was saying, thank you for that.
Okay. There was a gentleman earlier, and again, as I say, I apologize. I've just jumped in. There was a gentleman earlier complaining about Israelis leaving you guys in the diaspora alone to fight anti-Semitism.
I can tell you from my experience here, there's a lot of Israelis that have been fighting that fight. There is a lot of work being done by different ministries. Perhaps it's not sufficient, but at the end of the day, we're all Jews, we're all Israelis, wherever you may be living, and we're all in this together. Most of us who are fighting the good fight are doing it voluntarily. Nobody's paying us. We're not getting any support from any government authority or whatever. So please understand, it's not a question that you're on your own. You have our full support. We appreciate your fight. We appreciate what you're doing to help us now, and we're all in this together. Okay, just bear that in mind. When I write Am Yisrael Chai, I mean it, and everybody here in Israel means it. You don't understand
Wonderful.
how much your support means to us, and keep it going.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, because you guys are on the front line and we really appreciate everything that you're doing. And we totally understand how awful it must be. So God bless and stay safe.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Ajay.
much. Thank you so much, Blue. And yes, please keep us updated. Let me now. I'm gonna mute your mic just real quick, Blue, because there's giving some feedback. And then let me quickly go to Sina since your hands up.
Thank you, Chet. Again, Tamar, I just want to let you know that I had dinner about 5-6 months ago with David Rowett in Florida, and
Oh, he's amazing.
he's amazing. He's amazing. We discussed ways to expand on the Persian Farsi speaking foreign ministry, and you guys have done a wonderful job. And to let you know that a group of Persians, some of them were in this space right now, helped trend Iranian stand with Israel to 1 million, trending to 1 million hashtags in
Wow.
in 3 days. So that is a direct result of you guys creating awareness, and you guys letting the Iranian people know that you support a free Iran, and Iranians stand behind you 100%, behind us, all of us, and they stand behind freedom. And hopefully there's going to be a day where the flags of Israeli flags and the real true Iranian flags stand next to each other in both countries.
Amen. And I also have to say, I have such a special place in my heart for Iranians. We stand behind Iranians 100%. On our Israel and Persian account on Instagram, we have and 90% of those followers are from Iran. And I have to say, the majority of comments that we receive there are so positive and are so heartwarming and are so loving. And Iranians are truly our brothers and sisters. And it's my dream to go to Tehran. And I hope one day I'll be able to visit Tehran and tour the markets and meet the incredible Iranian people who continue to stand by us.
Can I add something to this to use my new co-host privileges?
Go for it, Daniel.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, what I wanted to say to Avi is like Avi was right when he kind of came after me and said there is some conditional support from the Americans and the Italians and the British, and right to be skeptical. And I've said, push them. But the point I was making is there are communities I've seen that are 100% solid. That listen, this is not my first time in the Iranian community. So you can tell you, I was there in 2017 during the revolts there, 2019 during Bloody November. I was the first journalist to report on the death of Qasem Soleimani. I was the first one to prove the terrorist attack on PS 752 was a terrorist attack. And I wasn't just in Indian media recently over this Khalistani thing. I was there in 2019 on the Kashmir thing. I've been in these communities for a while. And I will tell you, it's 100% solid. When I was listening to the Iranians talk about the war between Israel and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, there was no wavering. There was no tit for tat. There was no talk about proportionality. They were outright in support, gung ho, eliminate terrorists. The Indian media is on a massive counterterrorism push. They are not going to break. Now, there are some allies that are tepid right now, and we need to push because they are not as 100% solid. But I can tell you, as someone who has been with the Iranian, a lot of monarchists and the Hindu Indians, the support is solid and unwavering and will not balk. And I encourage us to take heart in this and use that as an inspiration to push other Western countries whose support is a bit more wavering, a bit more conditional, because we actually have allies now that are solid. And
Yeah.
that is something we should understand and move forward with. So Sina, it's not just him because he's Jewish. I mean, there are tons
Yeah.
of Iranians, no connection to anything Jewish,
Yeah.
who
Well,
stand
we've
with
certainly
the
seen
people who are
that
standing
on
with us.
this. We've certainly seen that throughout the day on this space, the amount of support from our Iranian friends, not just outside expats, but also inside Iran. Anyway, I wanted to ask anyone who had questions. I'm sure Tamar's time is incredibly busy at the moment, so if anyone has any specific questions that they want to ask her, then this would be a good time to do it. Anyone? Okay.
Hello.
Let's
I
go.
did.
Go ahead.
I did have a. I was actually listening very intently to the speakers Tamar and Blue, and I would like to quote that Daniel is what a thing he highlighted is very interestingly intertwined with what they were talking about. When America showed up to Israel, it wasn't just a moment military. It was a moment of the American heart. It was a moment that showed that Americans truly see themselves on the Israeli side. They see themselves against the Hamas regime. They see themselves against Al Qaeda, and they're uniting against terrorist structures. Now, I don't find myself, however, in the same spaces sometimes Daniel finds himself in, and I know a lot of people here probably see that as well, and they see the American side in demonstrations in front of Washington, and they see this kind of media as well. So it has this conflicting feeling, but without going too much off on a tangent. My question for tomorrow is: how can we bring up the topic of Zionism to the people who like the most mainstream way to tell them that it is just the existence of existing Israel? Thank you, Tamar.
Wow, Sean, I think that's a really good and really complicated question. I have to say that in the last 10 years, Zionism has become a dirty word. It's a word that's associated with being a murderer, being a racist, being a colonialist. And I think that we need to reclaim the word Zionism. I think we need to talk about the root of the word Zionism, the yearning of the Jewish people to come back to their homeland, the right of the Jewish people to establish, a state in their ancestral homeland. And I think we need to do a much better job at talking about the history of the Jewish people and our roots to this land and say it's not about displacing people, it's not about displacing Palestinians, it's about coming home to the one place that has always been the home for the Jewish people.
Yeah. A quick update from Blue. I hear he has an update about the tragedy at the hospital. Fire away, Blue.
Go ahead, Blue.
In your own time, my friend.
Blue, you got to press the mic. As Blue locates the mic, let's quickly go to Brian. Welcome to the stage. I'm sure you have a question here for Tamar here, who's from the Israeli MFA. It's good to see you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Chet. Yes. So like I know there's so many rumors and so much misinformation being presented on social media. I have no doubt that you've seen that. Like, what would be your recommendation to people on, say, X who find information that isn't accurate and know that it's not accurate? And what can you say about like people claiming that there's been white phosphorus used by Israel?
First of all, Brian, it's great to meet you virtually. I follow your activity really closely and I'm a really big fan. And all of us here in Israel are also very grateful for you sharing and using your platform to share what we've been experiencing here. I think Twitter has kind of just been a cesspool of information. I don't think there's really enough check and balances to make sure that the information that is being put out is accurate. I know that even on the Israeli side, there have been some mistakes of information that has been put out that hasn't been 100% verified. And as a government, we're being really, really careful on the one hand to get information out as quickly as we can, because those who put the information out first are kind of making sure that they're creating the narrative. But on the other hand, we also have to be extremely careful in making sure that the information that we put out is, verified and is clear. And I have to say, I'm not just saying this as someone who's an Israeli and who, is a civil servant. The IDF is really careful about the information that they put out because they know how much backlash they can get if information isn't verified. And I have to say that that is as well, for the Israel Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We know that if we put out something that isn't 100% factual, within a minute, we are going to have thousands of people commenting, reporting, tweeting, etc. So I would first of all recommend that you follow our official channels. There are also some incredible journalists on the ground here who are reporting, about what's going on. For example, I'm a really big fan of Trey. I think he's doing a really good job at getting the stories outside of Israel from on the ground. And in addition, there are also some really great Israeli activists like Chen Nazig and Aviva Klompas who are doing really, really great work in coordination with a lot of civil society groups here to make sure that information is verified and clear. And I would say something that is to our advantage, but is also a challenge for us, are Twitter community notes. On the one hand, when people put out fake information, there's an opportunity for the audience to kind of use community notes to keep people held responsible for what they write. On the other hand, I've noticed that we've put out extremely factual information. For example, I don't want to get too much into the gruesome details for people here who don't want to hear them, but we've, been given really horrific pictures of victims from last week's Hamas massacre. I'm talking about individuals who were burned alive. We put them on social media, and within minutes, we had a bunch of anti-Semitic trolls, right in the community notes that the photo that we put up is AI generated. So I think it's a really, really complicated topic. I think we have to be really careful about making sure that we put out the right information as Israelis. And I would also ask each and every one of you, no matter where you are on the Israeli, Palestinian conflict, no matter whether you're left and right, if you see information that is not verified or is not factual, please, flag it. And if you see information coming out of the Israeli side and you have any questions as to whether it's valid, you are all welcome to, reach out to me, and I will do my best to get you guys answers.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much,
Sure.
Tamar. And real quickly, Blue, I know that you are unmuted now, so can you give us the update on that hospital?
Okay, from what I'm hearing, it seems as if it's an errant Hamas missile, but it still hasn't been verified. There seems to be some video evidence out there in the area of the hospital at the said time. I can't confirm 100% that this is correct. Also, Tamar, with respect to the phosphorus, the use of, or alleged use of the phosphorus bombs by Israel, I was under the impression that this had been debunked. They were actually showing some kind of missiles with a specific reference number used by the US Army, which apparently turned out to be smoke bombs and nothing else.
Yeah,
Can
so
you
I was,
confirm?
yeah, I mean, I don't want to confirm or deny because honestly, I'm not educated enough on the topic to give a final verification, but I was under the same exact impression. So that's what I've heard too from my sources here. And I do have to say, and I've been saying this throughout this Twitter space, it's really not just a slogan. Israeli civilians die because of the links that the IDF goes to protect innocent Gazans. And there are a lot of Israelis who have a really, really hard time with that. And I have to say, as a civil servant, I believe in the morality of the IDF. I believe in the morality of the Israeli government to do whatever we can to keep as many, Palestinian civilians safe, and to protect them from
Absolutely.
a government which is holding them hostage. So I can't really give you guys, details as to the question that you asked regarding the white phosphorus, but Blue, I heard the
Uh,
same thing.
yeah, I would definitely agree too on your point there, Tamara. And as speaking as someone who's retired from the Air Force and used to work at Stratcom, I would say it's not to knock on our own forces at all, but literally, I would say the IDF is more ethical just in its own nature of the society and the ethics that are built in. That also then translate into the way that Israel conducts warfare, and it does you see it quite clearly in the way that the IDF will, I mean, roof knock a lot more often than even the United States ever does that. So I think that's something also critical to point out.
If
I,
I
I
could
also just
slightly,
want to make,
sorry, go on.
yeah,
Go on. No,
I
no, you
just wanted
go.
to, yeah. I just wanted to make
You're the
also
boss.
one quick statement about civilians in Gaza. I have to say, my heart really does go out to them because they're in a very, very, very tough position. A lot of them are not responsible for the actions of Hamas. In fact, they're victims of Hamas's aggression over the last 17 or so years. But Hamas really is the one that needs to be held responsible for putting up roadblocks, preventing innocent Gazan civilians from leaving Gaza, from using children and toddlers, as human shields. And if the reports are correct, and if we realize that, the rocket that was launched from Hamas and hit that hospital, we definitely need to call on all of our international friends and allies to hold them responsible, not just for the crimes against humanity that they're committing against the state of Israel and Jews, but for the crimes that they're committing against their own people. I think it's horrific and I think it's disgusting.
So here's a point, if I may. Who, irrespective of, unfortunately, who hit that hospital, that's not my point. And I know many, many hundreds, if not thousands, of Palestinians may well die in the coming conflict. And so, a hospital, yes, it's tragic. Come on, it's appalling. But one thing you did point out earlier, which I have a real problem with, I think we've we've just got to stop being so nice. We can say we try everything we can to not inflict death on the other side, and we do that, and it's costing lives on our side.
Sorry to
Yeah.
I
interrupt.
say to you, can we stop being so nice and
AJ,
save Israeli and Jewish lives?
sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead,
So
Greg.
I want to respond to that because I think it's an important point. I don't think that I would use the term nice. I think we just have to be more tactical. I think what we just witnessed in the past 2 weeks here in Israel has kind of turned the tide. It's made us realize more than ever before what we're up against. I mean, you have literally seen ISIS operatives go from home to home in Israeli communities, just butchering entire families, tying mothers and children together and lighting them on fire. And I think we're finally realizing if we do not eradicate Hamas, Israel and the Jewish people do not have a future. And I also just want to say this isn't just about Israel. Hamas doesn't just want Israel wiped off the map. Hamas wants to eradicate the Jewish people. And I keep going back, to my family roots, to my grandparents who are Holocaust survivors. And it's something that has really traumatized me in the past couple of weeks, that as a child, I really did not understand how the Holocaust happened. And when you see the images that are coming out, from the past 2 weeks, I think it's very clear that Hamas wants to wipe the Jewish people off the map. And when we say never again, now is really the time to make sure that never again is never again.
All right, now I'm going to
I have
go quickly
something.
to.
Sorry to
Yeah, go ahead,
interrupt.
Greg.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Just as we speak, as with how morality and how we need to act as Jews, this motherfucker Mario come with a space on Gaza hospital bomb. So can you explain me, please, when we are dealing with this kind of people, how can you be moral? How can you be? I don't know. I don't know. The IDF just said that they are still checking, and he's coming with his title and how. We are not dealing with the same. We are not dealing with the same arms. We are not fighting with the same arms.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we're fighting ISIS. I think we're going to have to change our tactics to ensure the security and the safety of innocent Israelis and innocent,
It's not
Jews.
only
And I
the.
have
It's also the propaganda. The guy is just came out with a space on Twitter. Israeli. Ah, סליחה. Israeli bombed a Gaza hospital. So
mhm.
Yes,
how
but
can you
Tara
fight those?
told you the
How
answer.
can you fight?
She told you the answer. The answer is to go and contact the people who run Twitter to make sure community notes are put onto that space.
And
That's the answer.
I also just want to add, there's no way that we can fully win that battle We're
Yeah.
talking about millions of people around the world. We're talking about bots. We're talking about individuals who commit themselves 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to, propagating blood libels against the state of Israel. We can do the best that we can. Each of us, can think about how we can combat individuals like that. But we have to realize we're fighting a little bit of an uphill battle. I'm not saying to give up. I'm saying we need to do what we need to do. But on the other hand, we can't be discouraged or broken by individuals who are going to continue spreading hate against the state of Israel.
Excellent points, Tamar. Let me now move to a couple hands here. We have up. Let me go to Moshe, and then we'll go to Monte.
Oh, I can actually wait because I had a comment on something unrelated. I don't want to take up Tamar's time for it.
Okay, let me go to Monte real quick, and we'll go to Yankee.
Thank you so much. I just have a question, and then I will talk if you give me time again. Tamar, we know about the treaty peace, the Abraham Accord, and the peace with the Jewish state and Muslim states. Um, what do you take? What do you have to say about the past 10 days with the horrific barbaric act from the Hamas, which is supported from the Islamic State? So, what is going to happen to this Abraham Accord? And do you think that peace with the Jewish state and Muslim state, not as two civilian countries, not as two democracy countries, is it going to happen, and what's going to happen later? Your take on this? I appreciate it.
Look, I completely believe in the peace between Israel and its Muslim Arab neighbors. I have to tell you, I've spent quite a lot of time in the UAE. As an Orthodox Jew, I've never felt safer anywhere else in the world than I have in the UAE. And I'm talking as somebody who grew up, in the United States in a very big Jewish community. I think a lot of our Arab neighbors realize that we're fighting against the same enemy. I think they realize that radical Islam and individuals who want to butcher innocent civilians are not only a threat to Israel, but are a threat to the entire region. And I'm completely optimistic that our cycle of peace will remain as strong as it is now and will continue to grow. And I have to just say thank you to so many of my friends in the Arab world, whether we're talking about the UAE, whether we're talking about Morocco, Bahrain, who have reached out to me to make sure that we're doing okay, who have asked how they can help, who have put out content, in Arabic supporting the state of Israel. So I'm not really concerned about the repercussions that this will have for peace between our neighbors, because I really do think the peace is ironclad.
Okay, let me now move to Yankee.
Hey,
Yankee, are you there?
sorry. Well, I want to actually give an update. Hamas just said that they're willing to release the hostages if the bombing stop, as per NBC. So that is interesting.
That'll
I think they're
interesting. I don't. I almost don't believe them on that, but
well. I think
see.
they know they're done for, and they're just trying for tactics to
I,
slow it down.
I just want to comment on that. Everyone has to realize that what Hamas is doing is psychological warfare in its highest form. So we need to be very, very, very wary about taking statements that they put out seriously, because they are trying to mess with us both physically and emotionally. Those of you who saw the video of the hostage yesterday that was put out know exactly what I'm talking about. So I think we have to be very, very careful about falling into the hands of a terrorist organization who have a lot of experience with manipulating, the Western world.
No, I 100% agree. I don't think it's a real scenario that will happen, but they're trying to play that card. I wonder why.
Well, they're playing the card very heavily already across my wires. We have the Palestinian President Abbas, saying he's returning to Ramallah after it, and then the Palestinian president's spokesperson is now out stating from their side that the Israeli airstrike on a Gaza hospital is genocide and a humanitarian catastrophe, which is absolutely ridiculous wording to be coming out of them after what we saw on October 7th. And we know once again we don't have any ability to verify who is even responsible for this yet. Of course, Palestine's throwing that out there as quick as they can. And then we have Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau, who immediately just jumps on this and goes pressed about the Israeli strike on the hospital. According to Reuters, says news coming out of Gaza is
Oh,
devastating.
great.
It's horrible and unacceptable. And he said attacking a hospital is illegal. I mean, he's of course at least not putting blame on any particular figure yet, but I think he should have even held off on a statement until we had some clear view on even how this is going on. Trey Yinks had just put out a tweet just a little bit ago saying that the region is on the brink of a much larger war. Every piece of info must be critically analyzed, just as Tamar is saying here. He said, yes, I've seen the videos from the hospital and the ones claiming it's a misfire. He said, Hamas officials tell us it was an Israeli strike. The Israelis tell us they are currently investigating. He said, also cannot independently confirm the number of dead or injured. Reports indicate hundreds killed, but they're trying to confirm the details, and this will take time. So he's 100% right in that, and no one should be jumping to conclusions here about who is fully responsible until we have full clarity here. But either way, I think that the largest and most important narrative to drive back is that Hamas is absolutely responsible for almost every single civilian death that's going to happen in this war, because they continue to put civilians in harm's way. They put blockades in the way of people even being able to travel south, according to the IDF evacuation orders. If you'd like to speak to that tomorrow as well, and then I would like to then go to
Can I
yes, go
say
ahead,
one
Yankee.
more thing? Actually, you said Hamas is responsible for most or almost all. They're responsible
Well, basically all.
for
This is what
every
I really
ounce
mean.
of blood.
Yeah, every
They
yeah,
started
yeah,
this
yeah.
war. They started by butchering innocent civilians. And this is a response. Now, I don't know who hit the hospital. I assume it was Hamas. But regardless of what exactly happened, Hamas started this. They're responsible for every ounce.
Look, let's just be very clear here. Whoever hit the hospital, yes, it's appalling, it's crucial, it's important. There are going to be much, much more deaths than this. This is just the start of the media war. As soon as that report came out, every single news station in Britain immediately was flashed across without any corroboration whatsoever. But I'm telling you, and I started off uh, Chet and I started off this space, I don't know, 10 hours ago. And the first thing I said, if you think it's bad now in the media war, just wait until Israel actually starts the ground invasion, because, oh my God, it's going to be 100 times worse. And you've just seen it now with the very first thing today. I didn't expect it to happen already, but this is the first of many, many, many reports coming out that's going to vilify the Jewish state of Israel, and we need to be on guard and fight like hell.
And now let me pass it to Yom.
Hey everyone, I just want to say all over the previous week I've been chasing the lies all over Twitter. If you've seen every day to crazy hours, 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning, you can see it on my timeline. I was just chasing them one by one, and everything I can disprove and blatant lies I was just commenting, and hard comments that are very hard to refute. Like you can see some nice comments on my Twitter feed. Anyway, I just want to say thank you guys for continuing the job. I'm officially now a part of the reserves, so I just don't have time. So thank you all. I just saw the face of all of you, and I recognize the faces from the comments, and I just wanted to hop up. I'm currently driving. Just went to talk to my family, and I'm back to the army, and I don't have time for this. So thank you all. And I really, really don't know what happened today. First time I hear about this is now on the radio. I don't know, but whatever it is, just as soon as you have confirmed information, just don't let them lie about this, because no matter what actually went through, they will just try. Because there are things I just I've seen things on social media. Put aside the AI generated, which I fought like hell that the AI generated lie will go away. There are things that I don't know. The families that lost people, if they watch those lies, it's just wrong. It's way more than just lying about what Israel is doing. There are things that are just evil. So just please don't let them lie. That's all I wanted to say, and thank you all for
Great. Be like
continuing
that
this.
guy. Be
Thank
like
you
that
very,
guy. Be
thank you
up
very,
to
very, very
five
much,
o'clock
Tom.
in the morning fighting hard.
Yes, yes, and may Hashem be with you as you fight.
Yeah.
Yum.
Guys,
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
sorry to
you.
interrupt. I just want to say I have to
Well,
run, but thank all of you
nice.
so much. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much, Tamar, for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure, and please come back
Absolutely.
anytime. You've been
Thank
absolutely
you.
helpful to everyone here, and I think everyone here learned a little bit more about how to tackle this information warfare as we go forward.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Speak
Stay
soon and stay
safe.
safe.
Stay
All right,
safe.
thank you. All right, let's go to you, Daniel.
Sorry, may
Yeah,
I
thanks,
open the
Tamar, for
mic?
coming.
I'm so sorry. I'm from inside Iran. Can I say something before
I was,
Tamara?
I was about to give you a shout out as we have
Before
someone inside
Tamara
Iran here.
goes,
Just want to make.
I wanted to tell.
She jumped unfortunately before we got the chance to get you a chance to speak. I was literally going to run to you, but she just jumped unfortunately, so we did just lose tomorrow on that. But if you have anything else you'd like to add, please feel free to.
Yeah, thank you very much for the space. Thank you so much, and you feel safe actually in spaces like this. And actually, my fellow Iranians have said everything that actually I feel and I know. Just one point I wanted to add. Is when Tamara said they're active on Persian social media and it has worked, and they have seen the change of the direction of the ideas of the people. I wanted to add this one. You can tell her later on in other spaces because I may get again limited or locked because I get too emotional. Sometimes I'm too blunt. Just let her know, and the other Israelis, all the Jewish friends, we feel the deepest love, support, and empathy towards you because we have felt these things, these ugly atrocities that they have done to you and they do to you. Sorry, when I remember the scenes, it is traumatic. So for 44 years, we have tolerated this kind of stuff, and we believe you. We know the truth, and one point is that even those Iranians on the street that they are not on social media for any reason. For example, Twitter is not common. Most of people don't have, they don't use, even the youth don't use Twitter or X actually. But everybody, when you talk to them in the market, in the stores, they are extremely pro-Israel, and they say that good for them, go get them. We hope they finish them, and we wish the younger ones, so we wish we could get a visa, go to Israel and defend them, help them defend their own country because they are right. It's not just because, I don't know, emotional blah blah blah. It is because we know and we feel we have suffered the same kind of terrorist attacks for years, and even those who are not politically very active, and but they are not afraid to share the feeling that they know you are right, the other side, and the big propaganda machine of the lefties who love Islamists out of Iran. We have seen the streets actually of Europe, Australia, surprisingly, Canada, why surprisingly, but anyway, United States. But wherever Jewish friends went out and they had these gatherings, I know that all over social media, the posters were going around in Farsi, in Persian, to inform each other, and of course, monarchists, nationalists, go and show the support. And in LA yesterday, it was huge, and everywhere that we could, actually, they could, they went. But here, we cannot do anything. Just I wanted to hear my voice with my own accent from inside, deep, deep inside Iran, that we love you and we have your back. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the mic. L'chaim.
Chaim, thank you so much. I really appreciate that very much. Those words mean a lot right now at this time, especially. Let me move now to.
Can I make the point I was going to make?
Yes, Daniel, go right ahead.
Yeah. So on the misinformation, disinformation thing, this is my thing. Is there's going to be a lot of it. There's going to be individuals. Yes, we can turn Mero into a villain and all this, but I would recommend that not that you don't fight this, but that you triage your outrage to where it is most effective here. If you go after just these individuals, you're playing a game of whack-a-mole. There will always be another $10 million from Qatar to create a new Syrian girl or whoever it is. Again, that's a game of whack-a-mole at best. I would focus on those with real political power, right? People in office, right? Canada, Iqra Khalid, Omar Al Gabra, people connected, and the organizations that have significant political weight, often Muslim Brotherhood affiliated, Hezb Tahrir and Jamaat-e-Islami, the big three, those organizations that have access to our politicians and hold real political influence when it comes down to legislative decisions in our countries, that is where I would focus most of your effort in sort of combating misinformation, disinformation. And I think a very good weapon to use against them right now is when they do not call for the release of hostages, Canadians, Americans, Indians, our citizens were attacked by Hamas. Our citizens are being held by Hamas. When they support organizations that are attacking, murdering, and kidnapping our citizens, it is seditious behavior, and we should go after them for this quite hard. And I would, I'm not saying, listen, if these individuals make false statements, you want to throw a comment underneath them countering it, yeah, do it. Like, I'm not saying don't, but I would advise to triage your outrage and focus on places it makes the biggest difference. And to that, for me, it's people with real political power within our countries is where I would focus most of my things. And yes, Mario's never going to change. They could find another crypto grifter to run spaces, to do the same bullshit. And, Suleiman and, hanging out with a bunch of imams who are clearly connected to the ISI. Yeah, there's all that. But those are moles. They'll
They're
be
front men,
whacked. A new one will
right?
come out.
That's a critical thing, right? They're front men, and people need to realize that. And even if you cut off them, there's another whole animal behind that, unfortunately, right? So, a great point, Daniel. Let me go to, let's see, Ash. I believe you had your hand up the longest. Let's go to you first.
Thanks. I wanted to address a couple things. First off, Tamar was talking about how important it is to get the word out, and obviously this is an information war as much as it's going to be a combat conflict. But I will say that I don't know if everyone saw this, but there was some polling out 2 days ago that kind of gets just takes the pulse of the U.S. anyway, if you believe polls. CNN poll: 71% call Israel's defensive war justified. Only 8% say it's fully unjustified. Appropriate or insufficient. So those are pretty solid numbers, assuming those numbers can be maintained. I don't think there's going to be any problem defeating these
They
forces.
won't be. They won't be. Sorry, the numbers will change as soon as thousands of Palestinians die.
Yeah, of course. But the point I want to make on that was it's starting out better than it ever does.
Okay.
Despite all the noise, despite all the protests and everything, I was shocked by the numbers. I figured they'd be more like 55% or something like that. But what I wanted to point out was this hospital that just put out. Sorry, it was just a call. Israel War Room that put out the video that shows presumably a failed launch. Under that post, if you go to that post, and I'll put it in the pill, but basically, you'll see basically what's going on here, and that is that people are posting, oh wow, imagine that, a rocket, misfired and took down a whole hospital and stuff like that, like the only rocket that failed, and people don't realize that 40% of these rockets misfire. The other point I want to make was, they've been known to stash massive amounts of munitions in hospitals. So if there was a misfire and they're presumably launching from near the hospital, wouldn't it make sense that you'd have a much larger explosion if it blows up their own munitions?
Sort of depends on the type of munition used and the way it's aimed. There's a whole bunch of sort of situations that go into. I wish we had a munitions expert up here for that, because I even know with my intelligence background that I don't have the the specified knowledge on that. I know that we had a lot of people that did do that, and if Patrick or some of the other people that come around that have a little bit more knowledge on that, I don't know if LT's in the audience or not, but there are some people that have a little bit more of the munition side of expertise that might be able to answer that question. If they do come around, I will ask them. one thing I wanted to bring up, and it just came across my wire. I've lost it now, so I'm gonna have to go back to it. Let me go to Adi now. Welcome to the stage.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thank you for hosting this space. And I think that Yam dropped down, but I just wanted to quickly mention, then I'll go back to listening, that whoever was speaking on behalf of people in Iran, I wanted to thank her and thank the Iranian people. And just to mention that this isn't just about Israel. When we're talking about what's happening, there are terrorist organizations holding their own people hostage all over the world, and this is about standing, with the side of good, and that, a threat to who is it that said that a threat to freedom anywhere is a threat to freedom everywhere, and also that I've heard this mentioned before, and I just want to reiterate that the number of Jewish and Israeli voices, obviously we're outnumbered. And I know many of my friends who are not Jewish, do not have family in Israel, who do care, are afraid that this isn't they're not experts, this isn't their fight, they don't have family in Israel, and they don't feel like they have the agency to speak up, and the expertise to speak up. And so I think it's both important that those of us who have been following this because we do have family there, or because, as Jews we're taught, like, people have said, as Jews we're taught, like, never to allow something like the Holocaust to happen again. It's important that we separate our messages into the smallest possible kind of pieces, in terms of in ways that our friends who aren't experts feel comfortable sharing, so and sharing their perspectives also. So a friend of mine put it very simply, and I tweeted this out with his permission, because he, with his own funding, didn't feel comfortable doing so himself, said that, after 9/11, the US said, if you terrorists, like, if you commit acts of terror, we will come for you also, and that it really should be this simple, with Israel. And so that, like, messages like this, that we're able to amplify the voices of our allies, I think is very important to combat that, that the people saying that it's an echo chamber. How many of us are there to create echo chambers and to fight this? So it's very important. And I just want to thank all of our allies and people who are not Israeli, are not Jewish, who do stand with Israel, and who also recognize that this isn't just about Israel. So I want to thank you very much for hosting this space. I'll go back to listening.
Can I give a quick
Thank you,
2-minute
Adi.
add to this, like something
Make it
on
150.
150? Okay, I'm going to request that every Jew here, except for those in Israel, you have bigger fish to fry. This October 29th is Cyrus the Great Day, where the Iranian community, who is very pro-Israel, will be celebrating the King of Kings, Cyrus the Great, who helped the Jews reestablish the state of Israel. It is paramount that we show up in numbers to support the communities that have supported us. I want to see Israeli flags, American flags, Canadian flags standing beside the people who stood beside us. I don't want to just look around and see it's just me anymore on the Cyrus the Great Day. This October 29th, it's time for us to show that we care about the people who care about us, and those people are not alone anymore if we're not.
I think didn't he build the temple, the second temple, Cyrus? Have I got that right?
He allowed the Jews to do so and help fund it. I wouldn't.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like he built it, but I mean,
No,
the
I
second
didn't mean
temple
that.
does not happen without Cyrus the Great.
No. Yeah, absolutely.
Just real quick, I do have some breaking news crossing my wires. This is a a joint statement by the U.S. Special Envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism, Ambassador Deborah Lipstadt, and the Israeli Special Envoy for combating anti-Semitism, Michael Coulter Once. So this is a joint statement I'm reading right now. It's just published. Today, we, the U.S. Special Envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism, Ambassador Deborah Lipstadt, and both of their names again, condemned the heinous terrorist attacks by Hamas that occurred on and after October 7th, 2023. As details of Hamas's terrorist attacks become more apparent, our shock at their barbarism only grows. The brutal massacres, rape, looting, and kidnapping perpetrated by Hamas have no justification or legitimacy and must be universally condemned. There is never any justification for terrorism. We call for the immediate and unconditional release of all of those who were abducted, among them women, children, and elderly. In no reality can a civilized humanity accept such inhumane crimes as those perpetrated by Hamas. Our governments have the firm understanding that Israel can and should take any and all necessary action to defend its country and protect its people from Hamas terrorists, consistent with the rule of law and the law of war. Civilians in Gaza are not to blame for the horrific terrorism of Hamas, which has scant regard for Palestinian lives, using people as human shields. We deplore Hamas's cruel measures to prevent civilians in Gaza from evacuating, and we take note of the evacuation and displacement of over 500,000 Israeli civilians from their homes. We mourn the loss of every civilian life, Israeli, Palestinian, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, as well as civilians of every faith and every nationality who have been killed. Since Hamas's terrorist attack on Israel, we have seen a sharp rise in anti Semitic incidents around the world, including in the context of anti Israeli protests. We denounce anti Semitic slogans and symbols at recent protests worldwide, including chants of gas the Jews and kill the Jews, as well as the display of Nazi symbols. We condemn those who took to the streets of cities like London, Paris, and New York to celebrate Hamas's mass murder and hostage taking of civilians. Reveling in the murder and rape of civilians, chanting from the river to the sea, and calling for the destruction of Israel do not advance the security, prosperity, or freedom, democracy, or dignity of the Palestinian people. Such hatred only makes peace harder to achieve. Together, we stress that there is no place for hate, not against Jews, not against Muslims, not against anyone, anywhere. Effectively, combating hate requires people of conscience to build coalitions across faiths and communities. Yesterday, we met with leaders of the Jewish community in the United States to hear from them how we and other partners in the international community can work together to identify and combat anti Semitism in all of its manifestations. Anti Semitic ideology is central to the guiding principles of Hamas, whose October 7th massacres led to the single worst mass killing of Jews since the Holocaust. An excellently worded statement out there from the Department of State, I would say.
Is it okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to share something out of Iran, and so I know there's some Iranians in here. I hope their families are okay. There's a 5.5 earthquake reported in Iran, and just wanted to send my prayers to the people of Iran. That's why I waited before, but my thoughts and prayers are going to be with the Iranian people.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Asha. And then let's move over to, let's see, Escobar. Welcome to the stage.
Can we also invite Sunny at Night to talk? They wanted to come in an hour ago.
You can invite them yourself, IJ. You should have the capacity.
Okay. I'm leaving it to you. You're the boss.
No, you can do it. You can do it.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Now, I want to start off with something that was talked about yesterday. I think it was on this same, on a lot of people from this space were on it about Colombia and Petro. Reject. First of all, I want to speak for the people, the real Christian conservatives of Colombia, okay? Because we do not support Petro. We do not support Hamas. We are not anti-Israel. All Petro was placed by the deep state, just like the new president in Poland was placed by the deep state. Musk. All these people. These everything that's happening is planned, has been planned for many years ago. My uncle in Colombia, Roberto Escobar, was offered by Hugo Chavez the machines, the minion, to be, if he wanted to be elected president many years ago. When my uncle was aware that governments were placing politicians, judges, anything that has to be voted in were used with these machines. So everything that you see going on right now has all been planned by the globalists. Just like my friend Liz was commenting, she's very aware of all these things that are going on. Everything that's going on has been planned perfectly by the globalists that wanted to inject the radical Islam as the major religion in the world. Now, all these things, like,
really, do we want to hear this?
listen,
I don't want to hear this.
No, you can
listen.
Move it on, IJ.
Let me tell you something. You want to hear this because everybody has been talking about taking.
It's like, yeah.
Keep going, IJ.
Yeah, it's like the protocols of the elders of Zion. It's a theory. It's a forgery. It's someone's ideology.
It's no one's ideology. listen.
But
What
there's
I'm
no.
trying to
But I'm
explain to
sorry.
you is
There is no evidence to support your theories. You can state it, but there's no evidence to support it. And quite frankly, I'm not sure that this is the forum to have that debate. Quite frankly, and please don't have your uncle come after me.
Okay, let's move on to Black Tradesman. I see your hands up. Welcome to the station.
Hey, I'm actually an Ethiopian Jew. Uh, my family has descended from the Jewish state of Israel for generations now, and proud supporter of Israel. But I've noticed that there's a big divide. Because right now, Israel has a lot of support, but there's a big age gap about when you get online is okay, but that's not where the majority of the people.
Yeah.
Sometimes conservative speakers go on campus, but they get too intimidated by, some radicals on campus that throw fire alarms and
Yep.
stuff. But I just feel like there's not much of a pushback, and I think it's an eye-opening experience for a lot of people now because I have been warning, and many conservative commentators have been warning about the fight is in the college campuses and the university campuses
Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
those are the
100%.
future leaders of the country, and if
Yeah.
these people that are literally pro Hamas end up being leaders of corporations, ended up being elected, right? You can literally see them brought on the foreign policy of, you know, we support the Iranian mullahs' effort to wipe Israel off the
Yeah.
face of the earth. So I just feel like
But there
these
is
spaces are
absolutely.
good, but there has to be a plan to push back against these radical
Yeah.
anti-Semitic ideas on these college campuses and universities. I don't
Well,
see it.
it's up. You're absolutely right, sir, and it's up to the leaders who have failed. Not just the Jewish community. Let's be very clear here. It's an education issue, and they have
And
failed quite categorically to push back against people that are, the pro-Palestinian wing who are radicalizing students right across not just your country, but even in not even in my country too. So I agree with you 100%. If not now, when? So yeah.
yeah, it's
Okay,
a
I'll
massive
add to
issue. And
this.
quickly, Daniel,
Yeah,
before you
yeah,
add on that,
he's
Israel
right.
came out with
Uh,
a statement asking all citizens to immediately leave Turkey. So any Israeli citizens in Turkey have been asked
Wow.
to immediately leave Turkey as the terror threat level there has been raised to the highest
Goodness.
possible. Just wanted to alert that to the stage. Go ahead, Daniel.
Thanks, Mr. Erdogan.
Yeah, I mean, Israelis and Jews, get the fuck out of any country that is openly anti-Semitic right now. I mean, now, Black Tradesman's right. I mean, and I think a solution here, and one I've been trying to push for years, is you saw one of the major donors to Penn withdraw their donations. There is tons of Jewish money going into these organizations that are vociferously anti-Semitic, and they're too scared to withdraw the money. And the college campuses have learned that they can abuse Jews as much as they want and will never ever pull funding because we value education so much and we hold on to this naive idea that if we keep being friends and we keep supplying them with money and we show up at these dinners and we keep going, that it's going to somehow solve it. It's not. It's time to pull the funding from these universities, and any philanthropist, if you're a Jewish person, any philanthropist who funds York University or Harvard or whatever, you have to confront them and say, what the fuck are you doing financing anti-Semitism?
I think they are. I think I've seen 3 major donors pull their money out of Harvard in the last couple of days. Thank goodness. A lot before time. Anyway, moving on.
So let's get
Chet,
to
anyone else?
grass.
Thank you, guys. Chad, Daniel, IJ, you guys are superstars. You're always online fighting this fight. Man, I really, really hope we get to meet the day they finally chop the serpent's head and tie up a smile Hanya on a next SpaceX rocket and launch him in space. So I really hope that we can get together and celebrate that. Well, my heart really goes out to those people all the time. I mean, all the 1,400 people now, and I hope it stops there. It's been over 11 days, and I hope the pain is less, but I hope the anger is not. Now, anybody who has his or her head in the right place is with Israel. I mean, Israeli people don't have to doubt that. I have some friends in Israel I'm in constant touch with, and they're mostly worried what is the world thinking about. So, if there's anybody who's doubting that, please let me tell you, being a Hindu from India, um, like Daniel's been saying, all the channels. I mean, not all of them, but yes, the sentiment is positive, and the atrocities that happen, there is no denial in that, and there is nobody who has any common sense or any sort of logic will side with that side of the aisle. So um, just want to tell the Israeli people that we really admire the way you guys are standing up, getting together. The whole world which was busy being too politically correct, deep down knows what's right. But they were either paid to shut up or they were too scared to speak up, whatever it was, or maybe not to offend anyone. But looking forward to an end to this so other countries can follow suit, because these cowards, spineless politicians, they always would look for someone else to step in first, see the reaction, and then if it pleases their vote bank, they would go ahead. So I really hope Israel takes it all the way. All the power to you guys. So please
May
set this
I ask you a
example.
question?
Yeah, yeah,
Ross
sure,
Chopper, may I ask you a question?
sure.
I wanted to ask you, you are a resident of, you're a citizen of India, right?
India, yes.
Yes. Could you share with the forum a little bit about the pre Hamas attack general notion of the way the IMC was received in India after the G20 summit?
What's IMC? Could you tell me that?
IMC is the MOU, a memory of understanding between the India, Middle East, European Economic Corridor that was
Ah,
signed.
that. Okay,
You're,
okay.
you're familiar with that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's about money at the end of the day. I mean, 1.5 billion people. We are a big market, and since America has signed the Green Deal, China and India has been importing most of the oil. So Saudi Arabia is looking to build ties with us. Iran wants to do that. We even have a Haifa port there, which is owned by an Indian person, the operating out of Iran. So the ties with India are um, more financial because it's a big market. So people want to come and do business with us. Modi is taking the lead in this case right now, connecting with new countries because it's difficult. Constantly, we have a political problem that there's unemployment. So,
Oops, we're losing you,
so
my
this
friend.
economic
You
corridor
still there?
is kind of supporting that.
We lost just the last little bit of what you said there, but that's okay. I think we caught most
Can
of
I
that. Let me go over to
can I
yes.
can
Go
I
right
can
ahead.
I explain this as someone who's been in the India spaces? Like it's pretty good. Like
Bingo.
it's
Go for it.
about yeah. Like this is where energy independence is actually important in terms of geopolitics because there are many ways to influence countries outside of a military. All countries need energy, and energy is one of them. So India has made the sort of the deal because energy is not coming out of the West that they need to get energy from the Middle East because their cars need to run. They need to get from point A to point B. But these like it is sort of a tentative bargain that they've made, and a lot of Indians are very well aware of what the Islamic Republic of Iran says. But this is another conversation when it comes to India that we'll have to have. It's really the Western nations that need to get our head over the ass and be able to influence other countries with our resources through like positive trade and relation building. And because we sort of shut down and went green energy, and we're gonna green energy is basically financed and created by coal and natural gas, and we live in this fantasy world. That this ideology has consequences, and part of that is it's forcing countries like India to get into bed with the Islamic Republic of Iran because no one else is willing to sell them oil because we just don't have enough to sell there. So that's the economic tie here explained.
Yeah, and America being a bully in the middle of it and trying to impose sanctions here and there. So India has to rely on the Middle East for its energy consumption.
Well, I mean, I don't think that the U.S. is necessarily trying to. I mean, from a U.S. perspective, myself, obviously speaking, I don't think the U.S. is necessarily trying to bully that. It's more or less we're afraid. I think of some of the strategic consequences of Iran, for instance, and some of those other super potential nuclear superpowers that could rise if they are able to pour too much oil out of the region. So Iran's already been doing this, obviously, to quite a large extent, anyways, even with China, no matter the amount of blockades that we're putting in place, but. I mean, just from a U.S. perspective, it's not like it's like malicious intent or anything like that. From the Department of Defense's perspective, just coming from my background on that as well. For the most part, you're not going to see that from the DoD on that sort of side. But I do understand your point on the diplomatic side too, as far as how that's been pushed. But
And one last thing I want to add about what Daniel said about the Hindus not being on the list. I think they're worried about the cows we worship. So you might want to think that along with a iron beam and an iron dome, I think you need a dozen iron cows, and that will repel them away. So you might want to think that. Thank you, guys.
we
Keep
need
doing
some
what you're
brightness
doing.
in these dark times. Thank you for that, Chris. Let's go over to the next Tennessee here, Sunny at night.
Hello, everybody. I'm from India, so I've been attending, listening to your talk. Very interesting, and thank you for letting me have a go. So, the only question I have is this: that there's something I heard a TV analyst say, which is that the best solution seems to be a one-state solution. And that got me thinking. And is it not true that Arabs are not safe under Arab rule, as the Hamas proves? But Arabs are safe under Jewish rule, so maybe the one state solution is the best solution going forward. I'm talking about the day after all this attack and land invasion, everything.
There is
One
no
second.
way. There is
One
no
second.
way that there's going to be a one state. As I say, and I said this earlier, the one state solution is an idea promulgated by Jew haters who literally want to swamp Israel with, well, let's just say, quite a lot more terrorists. So there is never going to be a one state solution. And quite frankly, I hope there never is.
Okay, so the for like it was supposed to be the same question. So I thought all these presidents and prime ministers who are coming to Israel. I think the British prime minister and the French president is also lined up to come. Is it not indicative of something big going to happen? Like they're going to redraw the geopolitical maps of Middle East.
Oh, I think that's
If
a
not one
given.
state solution,
That's a given.
if not one state solution, something big time. It's not
No,
going to
no,
be
no,
like
no. No.
like like a small
Let's
change.
just walk away from this one. This one state solution is to bring into being the 23rd Arab state in the Middle East. It's the eradication of Israel. So let's just get away from that. But you're
No,
absolutely right. The fact that
yeah.
all these leaders are coming to Israel is proof that something big is coming down the line. And a lot of people have speculated on this forum today what that might be. But let's not add to that speculation. Let's just wait to see what it is.
Okay.
Nili, let's go back to.
Yeah, can I put in like one last point,
Sure,
if you
sure,
don't mind?
sure. Go for it.
Yeah. So there were many Iranians here. I don't want to derail this conversation or anything, but I request to get in touch with the Iranians or them to get in touch with me over space or DM, whatever. And secondly, somebody mentioned swastika. I don't remember who, but I just want to point out that what the German Nazis use is the Haken cross, the hooked cross. It is not the swastika. Swastika is a totally different Hindu holy symbol. Please don't
Yeah.
confuse swastika and Haken cross.
Oh, Ken,
I
please
think we
don't
would
tell
agree
my
it's
people that
easy
we
to
should have a
confuse them,
one
but your
state
point's well
solution with
made.
people that want to murder us.
No, I just raised the question. I did not propose this.
Okay.
Okay, well then
Anyway,
maybe
back
you
to you,
should be
Chet. There's tons of
careful.
people wanting to speak.
Yes,
And
yes. Let me move on now. I appreciate that, IJ and Esther. Let me see. So the thing I wanted to report out though is there's rocket fire once again on central Israel. This was towards the Ben Gurion airport area. I haven't heard anything. Neely, do you know if there's any reports of any rockets that hit the ground here with this, or is this just been Iron Dome interceptions?
Me?
Yes, ma'am.
I've literally just walked through the door, so I haven't heard anything yet, but I can find out.
It's gone quiet again.
Okay, all right. I just I thought you might know because you had a little bit of information earlier, but that's okay. I just wanted to report that out there as well, just so we're aware that that's happening. I'll let you all know if I hear anything coming in from my wires directly. We see here in getting from Israel Alma saying that in the Gaza Strip they claim Israel attacked a short time ago near the that hospital, but once again we're still not seeing. Quite a lot here. It says once again, yeah, it looks like a local explosion not related to Israel. So I've yet to see anything pointing in the direction showing that it is Israel yet. But once again, we're waiting for confirmation before we say one way or the other. But either way, we're still holding
Well,
any civilian deaths responsible
News
for
twenty
Israel
four
to
are
Hamas. So yeah.
saying News 24 are saying that it was a Hamas misfiring rocket. I
Okay,
mean,
thank you for speaking
So,
up.
Chet, something I've seen, and maybe others can confirm if this is a legitimate quote from Israeli defense forces, but it says an Israeli defense force spokesperson claims that they warned the Christian Baptist hospital as well as five others to evacuate before anything could happen. Now, I can't find that quote anywhere, but it's propagating on X as an actual quote. I know Mario and Solomon are posting that all over the place. So
I
I
haven't
mean, if
seen
that's
that
an
quote.
actual quote, then that kind of makes
No,
you
I
think
haven't
that
seen that quote anywhere, and I would have assumed, we would have heard that from the Israeli authorities when we kind of were asking that too as well. So I haven't seen that. My eyes have been all across the wires. Anyone else can
well,
correct me if I'm
I'll
wrong, but
jump in.
yeah.
I've definitely seen it being quoted, but of course it's the usual promulgation of propaganda, quite frankly, to try and separate Jews from their Christian friends.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and Al Jazeera is absolutely blaming it on Israel. Like the headline says,
Of
Israeli
course they are.
attack. So
Of
just
course they are.
What kind of
As soon as
what
the
kind of
word Al
Christian
Jazeera
hospital
says,
is in Gaza?
please
They've kicked out
discount.
most of the Christians out of Gaza. That is nonsense.
There are currently initial reports of protesters trying to breach the Israeli embassy in Amman now in response to this reported strike on a hospital in Gaza because, that's what the word they're spreading all across the world to all these Islamic extremists. And now there's an actual attempt of a breach of the Israeli embassy in Amman in response to this. So there's some video
But don't,
footage of that out there, and I'll put it up in the
but
nest as well.
don't worry, Chet. As soon as it's pointed out that it was a Hamas rocket, they'll all, of course, put their hands up and apologise. So don't worry.
That's literally never happened.
Correct.
If only we lived in a world where actual facts went out in this situation. It's sad how fast this misinformation's been able to
Yeah.
spread before anyone was able to confirm on any side what exactly is happening. But it does look like we do have, like from I-24 saying that from their initial investigation by the IDF, they're saying that they're showing the explosion in the hospital in Gaza was caused by a failed Hamas rocket launch. And I'm
And,
going to go by
yeah.
and stand by that because everything I've seen so far online has pointed in that direction. I've not seen anything
And
that
who
seems
was
to point in the direction of
who was
activity.
the first to put it out there in the wires? Rashida Tlaib. What a
I saw,
surprise!
yes, Rashida Tlaib. Yep.
so something that I did see was that like the timing of it aligns more with a Hamas rocket because there was rocket fire at that time being directed towards Israel, and according to a couple sources I've seen, there was no actual Israeli operations at that time.
See, here's the thing that's going to sound very callous. Oh God! Even when I say this, I'm not quite sure how to say it. I do care, but I don't care because casualties will occur. Misfires of Israeli rockets will occur and people will die. But these people will die because Hamas are using them as human shields. And it won't make the blindest bit of difference because as soon as that rocket attack occurred, whoever it was caused by was straight across the wires and all over Twitter in 2 seconds. And that's what we face and that's what we have to fight against.
Well,
Can
regardless,
I say
if
something that
they're
I'm really
yeah, go ahead.
afraid to say? I'm really afraid to say this, and
Sorry, I
I
missed
hope
that.
someone can. I hope someone can remember I
Nope,
say
missed
this. Okay,
didn't hear.
remember that I said this. I
Hello?
lived through the intifadas. Can you hear me?
IJ, hold on a second. Esther's talking.
I've
Yep,
lived through
can't hear.
intifadas. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I think you're good, Esther. Go.
I've lived through intifadas. Okay, I've with the blowing up of buses, of children, of mothers, of older elderlies, of pregnant, of, and I'm telling you. Remember, I said this. I will be afraid to say, but I want to put it on the record. I wouldn't be surprised if they set and put everybody they wanted in a hospital, and then they blame Israel for bombing it when they bombed it themselves. Put that on the record.
Unfortunately, given what we saw on October 7th, I can't put it past them either at this point, and that's the sad thing to say. It's unfortunate that we've reached a point where we can say that that's even within the realm of human possibility.
I'll add to
Moshe,
Esther's that
yeah,
that
go
is
ahead.
exactly what happened during the first Intifada. The first Intifada was used as a cover by the radicals to kill as many moderates as they could. The peace between Israel and the Palestinian state really died when the Palestinian radicals, during the first Intifada, used the cover to murder as many moderates as they could. So this would be within a pattern of behavior.
Well, also the hostages, don't forget.
I just want to jump in on something I heard. I went over to a different space where Michael was talking. Chet, you know who I'm talking about. And he was saying that apparently in Jordan they've set the Israeli embassy on fire.
Oof, in Amman?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay, so wow.
I also see reports of attacks on the Israeli embassy in Ankara.
So we have the possibility then that there's um well, we have confirmed obviously that there's the attack happening at the Israeli embassy in Amman, and now one potentially there, according to Golan, happening in Ankara as well. And I only expect this to spread because of the way that the media is pushing this already, and kind of giving in to even Iran and Hamas's attempts to call this genocide and all this other shit when it does appear that this was their own rocket in their own area when they were firing a salvo of rockets at Israel, literally within that same time frame. I mean, we were looking at those alerts come across before we heard about that hospital getting hit. We didn't hear about any IF activity in that area. There's the major difference there, and IF's pretty clear about the activity they're doing. So. Yeah, and the IF would come out, and say if they made a mishap here as well. This isn't like the IF has any reason to hide from anything like it. It immediately came out with the fact that it had the intelligence failures, right? So I think that's a key thing to keep in mind as well. Esther, and then Ash.
I just want to also add, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure if it was a Christian, quote, Christian hospital, it might have been through donations from the Christian community around the world. I am pretty certain that there are very few Christians living in Gaza because they don't let them live in Gaza. They don't have they're treated horribly. So the likelihood that it was a Christian hospital, meaning Christian, really would have been probably meaning the donations from the Christian world. Very few Christians live in the Gaza area, and even in the disputed territories of Beit Lechem, which, by the way, I want to just make a joke because it's always fun to have something to laugh about when it's so horrible. Beit Lechem, it means house of bread. Lechem in Hebrew is bread, but in Arabic it means meat, house of meat. Okay, but anyway, those areas, unfortunately, there's disputes. Beit Lechem, most of the Muslims in the area are bullying the Christians. So there are very few Christians in Gaza.
So
Let me make
I
you
could
sure. So they are trying to divide Christians to make Christians angry and see that they're being affected and they're being, so it's very much a propaganda
so I
ploy.
could speak on that a bit. There's about 1,100 Christians in all of Gaza. I looked up the numbers yesterday, actually. Um, there's an old historic church in Gaza, though, and I think that has a hospital connected to it. That being said, I was actually in Bethlehem just a month ago. Would not recommend anyone going in peacetime, especially not right now. And I was told the same thing over there by the people. Christians are basically being kicked out of Bethlehem, or Bethlehem for those that don't know Hebrew. And they're being kicked out. It used to be a Christian majority city when Israel left in 1995, and right now it's between 12 and 18% Christian. All the Christians had to leave because they're being bullied. So this is, if you had a quote unquote Palestinian state, that's how things would look like. You would have terrorism and any non-Muslims or moderate Muslims kicked out. That would be a result of a quote unquote Palestinian state.
And we have a statement coming out from Israeli officials saying unequivocally this is a failed rocket intended to fall
Wow.
on Israel.
Wow. And how quickly do you think that the media, and I'm referring specifically to the UK media, how quickly do you think they're going to report the truth now? The
I don't think
answer
they're
is
going to.
please don't hold your breath.
I think they're going to keep reporting the
Correct.
Hamas lie,
Do not,
unfortunately, and they're never going to pick up the truth.
and I said this earlier. As we're talking on this forum, I'm tweeting out to the UK media saying, "This is the truth. Now take down your tickers." And I respectfully ask everyone in every country who's on this forum now, tweet out and add the names of all the media who are still promoting this lie. Don't wait, just do it. The more people that do it, the quicker they'll change their narrative.
Well,
The time
here's
is
the
now.
thing.
There's no other
The
time. Yeah.
Associated Press, which wrote the article and sent it around to hundreds, maybe thousands of websites, this was their headline, and I'm reading CBC's headline, but it's Associated Press article. And it reads like this: hundreds killed in Israeli airstrike on Gaza City Hospital. Palestinian Health Ministry says. Oh, great! We're going to take their word for it.
And let's remind everyone too what the Palestinian Health Ministry and all these ministries are in Palestine. Even though they use the word Palestine in front of them, we have to remember the Hamas controls the Congress of Palestine. So therefore, all those ministries are essentially just Hamas representatives. So let's keep that in mind.
But unfortunately, you and I know that. Everyone in this forum knows that. But these idiots in the media refuse to accept that. They literally report their press releases verbatim. This is what we fight. This is why we need to immediately tweet out to those places and tell them the truth.
It's the
and
fallacy
eventually they'll
of two
take it down.
sides, right? It's the fallacy of two sides. We can't let our minds fall into this idea that just because there are two sides, they're both equal, right? Just because there are two sides does not make them equal at all here. One side is an actually sovereign nation that is protecting its land, and the other side is a bunch of there are civilians, and then there are also people over there that are a lot of terrorists. And a huge amount of them, in percentage ratio wise, compared to any other place in the planet, that are willing to act in vicious ways for bloodlust, and that's not what Israel's doing. Right? We can have arguments all day long after this about the settlements and blah 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 blah, but that's completely fucking different than coming into a country and raping and killing people and burning babies alive. Like all of that is well beyond the pale and shouldn't even be close to being coming to this two sides fallacy. And it's so weird to me to see people still falling for that just because they're like, oh well, there's two sides, so they must both be equal.
Well, they fall for it because they want to fall for it.
It's unfortunate. Let me go to Grass and then Ash. If Grass isn't there, let's go to you, Ash.
Hi. Yeah, just on this topic about the misinformation. Obviously, AP has proven over the years that nobody should trust them. But I would say like just reading the tweets from Rashida Tlaib, Israel just bombed the Baptist hospital, killing 500 Palestinians, doctors, children, patients, just like that. And then Ilhan Omar, bombing a hospital is among the gravest of war crimes. The IDF reportedly blowing up one of the few places the injured and wounded can seek medical treatment and shelter during a war is horrific. We all expect those tweets. However, I think the Democrat Party has a very amazing opportunity to look really good by throwing these Nazis out of the caucus, because obviously public support is massively in favor of Israel now as we speak, And I think it would go a long way to show that they will not support this hatred and disinformation and propaganda from their own members, and throwing them out. You can't remove them from Congress, but you can throw them out of caucus. So I think that's something that Jewish Democrats should really be pushing for at this point.
In a way, that would make them a martyr. I don't know. I'm not saying we shouldn't just look at both sides, and I'm not a Democrat. Maybe Brian has a thought on that. That being said, yeah, we know that they lie, but we got to call it out. And yeah, but
Yeah. Hey,
Oh, we're not going to stop
no,
calling them
no,
out.
no!
I
Don't
mean,
stop calling
that's
them
never
out.
going to stop,
One
right?
more thing I'm going to say about this is when it turns out that Hamas did it, will all these people call on Hamas all these words, or only when it's supposedly Israel? Right? They're calling Israel genocidal and all these words for supposedly bombing a hospital. But will they turn around when it turns out it was Hamas that did it? Will they condemn Hamas? Of course not. Of course they won't.
No.
Well, they'll say that it was Israel firing on them, and then they had to fire back, and there was an accident.
They
So
won't even
Israel
say
caused
that.
it.
No, they won't say that. They'll still maintain it was Israel that did it. Trust me.
Yeah, you're probably right. Sad as it is, looks like Brian
Yeah.
was trying to chime in here.
Yeah, I think it's just irresponsible, especially for politicians, American politicians, who start weighing in before they even know all the details. I mean, I think that's on either side. Talib and Omar definitely they're not
Well,
making the
it
right
fits
moves
their
here.
narrative.
At least give it time, give it like 2 hours to get
Okay.
the details before you actually post out tweets or X post to
Look,
literally millions of people.
Yeah,
there's
but
a
they do it
phrase
on
that you
purpose
know.
in
There's
those
a phrase that
cases.
you know that everyone else know. A lie goes half around the world before truth is pulling out up its pants. These people don't care about the truth. If they can get their narrative in first, they will make sure. And you think any one of these politicians will ever apologise if it turns out that it was a mass rocket? No, that would be naive.
At
It suits their
best,
narrative.
they'll delete their tweet and just act as like
Exactly.
it
As if
didn't
it never
happen. Yeah,
happened.
that's the best case
Correct.
scenario. Worst case, they'll just
Yeah,
leave it.
exactly. And what should listen? I keep berating people for saying, "Don't tell. We don't have the power." Politicians. What should happen is Congress should call it out as soon as the next time they meet. They should call them out on the floor. Whether they will or not remains to be seen. Anyway, Chet, over to you.
Let's go to Cassie.
Hi again, guys. Thank you for having this space still. I wanted to actually previous yeah, cheers to you. Last year, exactly on October, Daniel was with us. Daniel, I hope you remember when it was in the middle of the revolution and Islamic Republic attacked Evin prison. This is the same tactic that they use for like unbelievably. And as soon as I read this news, I knew that this is coming exactly from Hamas itself. So other proofs that they keep all of those how you say ammunitions, yeah, in heinous ways, like in hospitals, in living apartments. So this is definitely clear, crystal clear to us, as they do the same paths all over again. Just wanted to mention this, like previous year happened to us.
So just to update, and sorry for interrupting like that, but the IDF spokesperson is now out with an official statement saying that after analyzing the operational systems of the IDF, it was a rocket barrage by the Hamas that went through the area of the hospital during the time that it was hit. And they believe that the responsible team or a group to do it is the the Palestinian Islamic Jihad.
Yeah. Good point.
Did we find out who was in the hospital? Because that's the next thing we'll hear is most of the hostages and all the moderates and yeah.
I think it's immaterial who was there. People were hit, but I think what is important is accountability. I live in Israel long enough, and I've been involved personally to understand that mistakes, especially in war, when there is so many things going on coincidentally, mistakes happen. Grave mistakes happen all the time, everywhere. But this is very far from something which is intentional. But here, we're not even talking about a mistake, not an accident. We're talking about them using a misfiring of one of the rockets by the Islamic Jihad to put it on Israel. And as we can see, they attract many supporters around the world. With that respect, I just want to add one more thing, which is sometimes difficult for Westerners to appreciate. So in the Middle East, there are many people, not everywhere, but there are many people which are illiterate. So, for example, Egypt, which is the biggest Arab country with about 105 million people, has a literacy rate of about over 70%. It means that more than 30 million people don't know how to read and write, but what they do know is to hold an iPhone 13 and watch videos. That's easy. Everybody can do that. You don't need to know how to read and write. So their ability to absorb and digest and to differentiate information is not what people like maybe in this space are taking their situation as to be the normal one. It's not.
So I don't know whether this is genuine or this is fake news from our side, but I'll mention it here. Sources assure us that explosive materials and weapons stored directly underneath and adjacent to the hospital were set off internally and nothing whatsoever to do with an Israeli air bombardment. Take of that what you will.
Can you
There it
confirm that
is.
information as well from
Well, it's
I-24 news?
it's uncorroborated. It's
Can you hear me?
uncorroborated.
I'm also getting news that IDF says that the explosion there at the Baptist hospital in Gaza from I-24 News was caused by a failed rocket launch by the Palestinian Islamic Jihad terror group, so the PIJ here, which is like the sister to Hamas, basically over in Gaza, according to its analysis of a rocket barrage that occurred at the time of the explosion and some deep intelligence analysis that they did. So they took some time, I imagine, looked back at some different methods of intelligence gathering to kind of come to that conclusion, but I would stand pretty harshly by whatever the IDF is saying here, and I'm just flabbergasted and dumbfounded as to how fast we saw people be so quick to accuse the Israeli military of being responsible here.
Sorry, which planet are you on, Chet? Which planet? Are you in Disneyland still?
One I don't want to be on, but no, I don't know. Rod, let me go over to you.
Okay, so I've seen the video on Channel 14 in Israel, and you can clearly see the rocket rise and fall, and fall on the. You don't see in the whether it's a hospital or not, but you see the rocket fall down, and then you see a secondary explosion, which means that there were explosive there that ignited through the first rocket. And it's obviously a rocket that fired from that first, because you see the trajectory, you see where it goes, where it comes from. And secondly, you see the speed.
Sorry. It was obviously what? I didn't quite catch that.
It was obviously a rocket fired from Gaza.
Okay.
And it failed. So, a rocket, let me give a very brief explanation. It has fuel that pushes it forward. If for some reason some of the fuel does not ignite, then it no longer has a push. So if there's no longer a push, it just falls down. And this happens about 30% of the rockets that Hamas is shooting are falling inside the Gaza Strip. So mostly they fall because they have a direction, so they fall at the edge. But sometimes they fall almost exclusively from where they were fired, like in this instance. It just went up and it goes back down, and then I assume, I don't know this, but I assume that what we've seen in the second explosion were other missiles that they were going to fire a bit later. This is what it looks like. This is just an opinion, a guess. But the fact that it was a rocket that the people of Gaza shot in order to kill me, because at that very time, I myself was under fire. Rockets were exploded in the air, very, very close to me. My entire house rocked a little. So they were trying to kill me and others like me, but they ended up hitting themselves. I do not know if they have casualties, and if so, how many. But if they have casualties, none of them are innocent, because if you are sitting where there is a store of rockets that are going to be shot at me, you are not innocent. And it doesn't matter what you're doing there. If you are only there to clap hands and cheer, you're still not innocent.
Yes, sorry, I thought I lost your mic there for a second. No, 100%. I would agree there, Rod. It's unfortunate that we keep seeing this happen too,
No, this is not unfortunate. This is very fortunate.
Well, no, I mean,
because
yeah, I get that, yes. But
they just blew up some of the missiles that were going to be shot at my personal self. So that's fortunate.
Sir, you made your point abundantly clear, and you're absolutely right. Let's move on. Many people wish to talk.
Hey, IJ, I can't see hands right now because I've had to move devices. So,
I'm gonna
if you and
jump
Daniel
off
could just
to
kind
let
of
others speak. I'll be
control.
back.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. You're okay. Daniel and IJ, if you could help just run while I do a couple things.
Yeah, I'll take some things.
By the way, I just wanted to say an official statement from Justin Trudeau. The Israeli strike on the hospital in Gaza is horrific and absolutely unacceptable.
Wanker.
It's not acceptable to hit a
off.
hospital. That is official from Justin Trudeau.
Where did he say
Didn't
that?
wait an hour. Didn't wait an hour. That's from Steve Herman.
Well, okay,
Reporting.
so sorry, Chet. I have to announce I will be in here, but in terms of moderating, I need to go onto the family group chat and start pushing my lefty Jew family, who thinks
Go
Jews
for
are
it.
doing such a great job on this issue.
Good
So
luck,
I'm
He
going
couldn't
man.
to.
wait an hour.
Good
He
luck.
couldn't wait an hour and get something from Israel. He had to go out and make that statement. Wow.
Sad.
It's well, the question we have to hope, and it is a hope, and I'm sounding as naive as you now, Chet, is that when the truth comes out, or at least when there's some doubt, perhaps they will retract it. So please keep your eyes on the media in all countries. Let's see if anyone starts to at least push back and begins to say, well, we're now hearing unconfirmed reports that contradict what we were previously told. And I might also say, even, and I'm not trying to be the big guy here, but even when I'm talking to you on this forum, even when I'm listening to everyone else, I'm tweeting out to our media, to our national and local media, tell the truth, it's unconfirmed. So don't just listen in. Please, you can do both. You can listen and you can tweet. Sorry if that sounds like coming at you. I don't mean to. I just say we're the truth tellers. We're the few people on this goddamn forum who will tell the truth. So let's get the truth out there. Let's get the media reeling that back if we possibly can. Okay, so
Actually,
fire
IJ,
away.
we
Fire
can,
away.
and actually, I'm sorry, IJ, but I want to tell you we can, and this is only our weapon, and we should spread the truth. And I recommend everyone to just put comments, especially under